The earliest known event in the FNAF timeline predates the franchise's main story by decades, involving the mysterious origins of Fredbear's Family Diner, a seemingly innocent family restaurant that would become the epicenter of one of gaming's most elaborate and disturbing mythologies. What began as a simple establishment in the 1970s, founded by two ambitious entrepreneurs with dreams of animatronic entertainment, would spiral into a decades long saga of tragedy, corporate cover ups, supernatural possession, and technological horror that has captivated millions of players worldwide. Hidden within Scott Cawthon's Five Nights at Freddy's universe lies a labyrinth of obscure details, forgotten lore fragments, and unexplained anomalies that even the most dedicated theorists have overlooked. These are not the headline mysteries that dominate Reddit threads and YouTube speculation videos, but rather the strange footnotes, the inexplicable design choices, the timeline inconsistencies that refuse to resolve, the background details that hint at stories never fully told. They exist in the margins of minigames, buried in source code, whispered through garbled phone calls, and scattered across a franchise that spans mainline games, spin offs, novels, and an ever expanding multimedia empire. Some of these oddities are deliberate breadcrumbs left by a creator known for his meticulous attention to detail and love of misdirection. Others appear to be genuine accidents, remnants of changed narratives, or artifacts of a story that evolved far beyond its original scope. A few defy any rational explanation whatsoever, standing as testament to just how deep and strange the FNAF rabbit hole truly goes. There are the technical curiosities, like the inexplicable behavior of certain animatronics that contradicts their programmed patterns, suggesting either hidden mechanics or something more unsettling at play. There are the environmental mysteries, objects, and rooms that serve no apparent gameplay purpose, but carry ominous implications for those who notice them. There are the audio anomalies, sounds that should not exist within the game's files, reversed messages that reveal disturbing context, and ambient noise that seems to tell its own parallel story. There are the character inconsistencies, animatronics whose designs shift between iterations in ways that cannot be explained by simple deliberate manipulation of the historical record by Fazbear Entertainment itself. There are the numerical oddities, dates and times that align in mathematically improbable ways, codes hidden in plain sight, and patterns that only emerge when you map the entire franchise chronologically. There are the philosophical paradoxes, questions about consciousness and identity that arise when souls inhabit machines, when memories are transferred between bodies, when the line between programming and haunting becomes impossible to distinguish. The franchise has always been about what lurks beneath the surface, what hides in the shadows of the security office, what waits in the blind spots of your monitor. But beyond the immediate scares and survival mechanics lies another layer entirely, a meta-narrative constructed from all the pieces that do not quite fit, all the questions that remain unanswered even after the main mysteries have been solved. These are the facts that slip through the cracks of conventional FNAF analysis, the oddities that resist easy categorization, the details so obscure that they have become almost unknown despite existing in plain sight. They range from the technical to the narrative, from the intentional to the accidental, from the merely strange to the genuinely inexplicable. Some shed new light on established lore, recontextualizing events we thought we understood. Others open entirely new avenues of speculation, suggesting storylines and connections that have gone largely unexplored. A few simply deepen the mystery, adding layers of complexity to a narrative already renowned for its inscrutability. Consider the peculiar case of certain animatronic behaviors that seem to violate their own established rules, moments where the AI appears to act with intention beyond its programming, or instances where the haunted machines demonstrate knowledge they should not possess. Consider the architectural impossibilities of the various Freddy Fazbear's pizza locations, buildings whose layouts shift between nights, rooms that appear and disappear, spatial configurations that make no physical sense when mapped. Consider the timeline contradictions that persist even after accounting for the franchise's nonlinear storytelling, dates that overlap impossibly, events that seem to occur in multiple orders simultaneously, characters who appear before they should exist or after they should have been destroyed. Consider the corporate documentation scattered throughout the games, training tapes and legal disclaimers, and employee handbooks that reveal a company culture of negligence and deception so profound it borders on the surreal, a business that continues operating despite mounting evidence us of supernatural malevolence. Consider the technological anachronisms, advanced robotics, and security systems appearing in eras that should not possess such capabilities, suggesting either an alternate timeline or corporate secrets that extend beyond animatronic entertainment. Consider the recurring symbols and imagery that appear across multiple games without clear explanation, visual motifs that seem to carry significance but resist definitive interpretation, patterns that suggest a deeper symbolic language underlying the entire narrative. Consider the voice lines and phone calls that contain contradictory information, narrators who seem unreliable or deliberately misleading, audio logs that raise more questions than they answer. Consider the mini games with their Atari style graphics and cryptic scenarios, moments of revelation that often introduce new mysteries, even as they solve old ones, pixelated scenes that have been analyzed frame by frame, yet still harbor secrets. Consider the Easter eggs so rare that only a fraction of players have encountered them. Random events with infinitesimal trigger chances, hidden screens, and secret animatronics that seem to exist outside the main narrative continuity. Consider the metatextual elements, moments where the game seems aware of itself as a game, where the fourth wall grows thin, where the horror extends beyond the fictional universe into the player's own reality. Consider the connections between the game universe and the novel trilogy, parallel storylines that sometimes align and sometimes diverge, characters who exist in multiple versions across different media plot points that seem to comment on or contradict each other. Consider the religious and mythological symbolism woven throughout the franchise, references to resurrection and damnation, to purgatory and possession, to sins that echo across generations. Consider the family dynamics at the heart of the tragedy, the Afton family saga with its twisted relationships and cycles of violence, the ways personal trauma scales up into corporate horror and supernatural catastrophe. Consider the scientific elements, the remnant and the agony, the attempts to quantify and manipulate supernatural forces through technological means, the blurring of science and dark magic. Consider the implications of consciousness transfer and digital immortality, themes that grow increasingly prominent as the franchise progresses, questions about what it means to exist when your soul is fragmented across multiple vessels or trapped in a virtual environment. Consider the role of memory and perception, the unreliable nature of every perspective we are given, the possibility that much of what we see is our story begins in the early 1970s, in a small town in Utah where two men with very different visions would come together to create something that would change the landscape of family entertainment forever. Henry Emily, a gifted mechanical engineer with a passion for bringing joy to children, and William Afton, a charismatic businessman with a darker edge hidden beneath his friendly exterior, pooled their resources and talents to establish Fredbear's Family Diner. This modest restaurant, tucked away in a quiet corner of Hurricane, Utah, would become the birthplace of an empire and the origin point of decades of tragedy. The concept behind Fredbear's Family Diner was deceptively simple. In an era when family dining meant little more than cheap meals and perhaps a jukebox in the corner, Henry and William envisioned something revolutionary. They wanted to create an experience, a destination where parents could enjoy a meal while their children were captivated by something they had never seen before, life-sized mechanical performers that could sing, move, and interact with the audience. This was the seed from which the entire Five Nights at Freddy's franchise would eventually grow. The diner itself was a humble establishment, certainly nothing like the sprawling entertainment complexes that would come later. The building was small, with perhaps a dozen tables scattered across a dining area, decorated in warm yellows and oranges that reflected the optimistic aesthetic of the early 70s. The walls were adorned with simple, hand painted murals depicting cartoon animals and smiling children. At the heart of this modest venue stood a small wooden stage, elevated just enough to give the performers visibility across the entire room. This stage would become the focal point of the restaurant, the place where magic happened every hour on the hour. The mascots Henry designed for this venture were Fredbear and Spring Bonnie, characters that would become legendary within the franchise mythology. Fredbear was conceptualized as a friendly golden bear, portly and welcoming, with a purple top hat and bow tie that gave him an air of showmanship. His design was intentionally non threatening, with rounded features and a permanent smile that parents would find charming and children would find approachable. Spring Bonnie, the companion character, was a golden rabbit with similar design sensibilities. Tall and lean, where Fredbear was stout, Spring Bonnie wore a purple bow tie as well, creating a visual harmony between the two characters. The choice of gold as the primary color for both animatronics was deliberate. Gold suggested something special, something valuable, something worth experiencing. What made these characters truly in the early 1970s, animatronics were not new. You could find simple mechanical figures at World's Fairs and Disneyland, but they were expensive, complex, and typically owned only by major corporations with substantial budgets. Henry's genius lay in his ability to miniaturize and simplify the technology enough to make it financially viable for a small business venture. The animatronics he created for Fredbears were driven by a combination of pneumatic systems, basic motors, and rudimentary programming that ran on punch cards, a common computing method of the era. The movements these early animatronics could perform were limited by today's standards, but absolutely mesmerizing for audiences in the 70s. Fredbear could turn his head from side to side, open and close his jaw in time with pre-recorded songs, raise and lower his arms, and even tap one foot to the rhythm of the music. Spring Bonnie had similar capabilities, with the addition of ear movements that could swivel independently, adding an extra dimension of personality to the character. The performances themselves were simple affairs, usually children's songs or public domain melodies that Henry had programmed into the system. The voices were provided by local voice actors William had hired, recorded onto magnetic tape that would play through speakers hidden within the animatronic bodies. But Henry and William's true innovation, the technology that would define the franchise and ultimately lead to unspeakable horror, was the Springlock suit system. This was Henry's most ambitious invention, born from a practical business problem. The diner was small and operated on a tight budget. They could not afford to have animatronic performers and separate costumed employees for birthday parties and special events. Henry's solution was to create hybrid suits that could function in two distinct modes. In animatronic mode, the suits would operate like Fredbear and Spring Bonnie on stage, powered by an internal endoskeleton, that is, the metal framework and mechanical components that gave the characters their structure and movement. In suit mode, these mechanical components could be compressed and locked back against the inside of the costume using a series of spring-loaded mechanisms, creating enough space for a human employee to climb inside and wear the suit as a costume. The engineering behind the Springlock system was intricate and, in retrospect, deeply flawed from a safety perspective. The endoskeleton consisted of numerous metal beams, gears, pneumatic tubes, and animatronic devices that normally occupied the interior space of the costume. When an employee needed to wear the suit, they would use a special hand crank to wind the spring locks, mechanisms that would catch and hold the endoskeleton components in a compressed position against the inner walls of the suit. This created a cavity in the center, just large enough for a person to step into. The employee would then carefully position themselves inside, avoiding contact with the locked components, and perform at parties or walk around the diner greeting guests. The danger, though not fully appreciated at the time, was that the spring locks holding back hundreds of pounds of metal components were sensitive to moisture, sudden movements, and environmental factors. If the locks failed, the endoskeleton would snap back to its original position with tremendous force, and anyone inside the suit would be impaled and crushed by the returning components. Henry designed extensive safety protocols around the suits. Employees received training on how to wind the locks properly, how to move carefully while wearing the suits, and strict instructions to never wear them in humid environments or if they were sweating excessively. Warning signs were posted in the safe room, a back area where the suits were stored and where employees would put them on away from public view. William Afton took an immediate and intense interest in the spring lock technology that went beyond its entertainment value. While Henry saw the suits as a practical solution to a business problem and a way to bring joy to children, William recognized something else entirely. He saw the potential for the suits to serve other purposes, darker applications that he kept to himself in these early days. William would spend hours examining the suits, studying how the spring locks functioned, testing their limits, and understanding exactly how much force they could contain and release. His fascination was noted by Henry, but dismissed as mere curiosity or perhaps an appreciation for the engineering involved. The diner quickly became a local success. Word spread through Hurricane about the incredible singing robots at Fredbear's, and families began making regular visits. Birthday parties were booked weeks in advance. Children would press their faces against the stage, watching in wonder as Fredbear and Spring Bonnie performed their routines. Parents appreciated the affordable menu and the fact that their children were thoroughly entertained, giving them a rare moment of peace during their meals. The atmosphere Henry and William had created was genuinely special, a place where imagination and technology merged to create something that felt almost magical. Henry Emily threw himself into the creative and technical aspects of the business. He was constantly tinkering with the animatronics, improving their movements, adding new songs to their repertoire, and sketching designs for potential future characters. He saw Fredbear's as just the beginning, the proof of concept for a larger vision of entertainment. Henry was a dreamer, an idealist who genuinely believed in the power of his creations to bring happiness to the world. He had a young daughter, Charlotte, who would sometimes visit the diner and watch her father work with pride and admiration. William Afton, by contrast, handled the business operations. He managed the finances, dealt with suppliers, hired and trained staff, and handled marketing and promotion. William had a natural charisma that made him effective in these roles. He could charm investors, negotiate favorable deals, and present a friendly face to customers. But beneath this exterior, something else was developing. William began spending time simply watching the children who came to the diner. He would observe them from behind the counter or from the corner of the dining room, studying their behavior, their innocence, their vulnerability. This observation was not the casual attention of someone who enjoyed seeing children happy. It was something more focused, more predatory, though he was careful never to let anyone see the true nature of his interest. Behind the cheerful facade of the expanding diner, serious technical problems were mounting. The early prototype endoskeletons, those internal metal frameworks that gave the animatronics their structure and movement, were proving far too cumbersome for the intimate performance space Henry and William had envisioned. These skeletal frames, constructed from heavy-gauge steel and fitted with pneumatic cylinders and hydraulic lines, weighed upwards of 300 pounds each. The bulk made fluid, lifelike movement nearly impossible. When technicians attempted to program even simple gestures, like a wave or a bow, the prototypes lurched and jerked with mechanical violence that frightened children rather than delighted them. The servos groaned audibly under the weight, and the floor beneath the stage had to be reinforced twice in the first year alone to prevent structural damage. Henry spent countless late nights sketching lighter designs, experimenting with aluminum alloys and more efficient motor placements, but each iteration brought new complications. Weight reduction compromised durability, simplified joint mechanisms, sacrificed range of motion. The engineering challenge consumed resources and delayed the full animatronic rollout that both founders had promised their investors. It was during this period of technical frustration that the spring-lock suits emerged as a seemingly elegant solution, though that elegance would prove devastatingly deceptive. The hybrid nature of these suits, capable of functioning both as animatronic performers and as wearable costumes for human employees, required an intricate system of spring loaded locks that held the animatronic components, the endoskeleton pieces, metal crossbeams, and actuator arms tightly against the inner walls of the suit. When a person needed to wear the suit, they would use a special hand crank to wind the springs, compressing and locking the mechanical parts out of the way to create a hollow cavity just large enough for a human body. The process was delicate, requiring precise technique and constant awareness of moisture, which could cause the springs to loosen and fail. During a routine staff training session in the late summer of 1974, this danger manifested for the first time in a controlled environment. A new hire, a college student named Marcus Webb, who had been brought on to help with weekend birthday parties, was being instructed on the proper procedure for entering the spring Bonnie suit. The training was conducted in the cramped back hallway that connected the dining area to the storage rooms, a space barely wide enough for two people to stand side by side. Marcus had successfully wound the spring locks and begun to step into the suit when his supervisor, distracted by a question from another trainee, failed to notice that several locks on the left arm had not fully engaged. As Marcus slid his arm into the sleeve, his elbow brushed against the interior mechanism. 3 spring locks released simultaneously. The metal endoskeleton components snapped inward with tremendous force, the compressed springs unleashing their stored energy in a fraction of a second. Metal crossbeams punctured through the costume fabric and into Marcus's forearm, creating deep lacerations that bled profusely. His screams brought both Henry and William running from the workshop. The injury, while serious, was not life-threatening. Marcus was rushed to the local emergency room, where he received 47 stitches and was treated for shock. Management, meaning William Afton in this instance as he handled most personnel matters, moved quickly to contain the incident. Marcus was offered a generous settlement, $5,000, and full medical coverage in exchange for signing a non-disclosure agreement that prevented him from discussing the accident with anyone outside the company. The training materials were quietly revised, and the incident was logged internally as equipment malfunction during improper use, placing implicit blame on the victim rather than the inherently dangerous design. The diner continued to grow despite these hidden dangers. By 1975, the establishment had expanded its footprint, leasing the adjacent storefront that had previously housed a fabric shop. This additional space was converted into a dedicated party room, painted in bright primary colors with balloon motifs stenciled along the walls. The room could accommodate up to 30 children and their parents, and it featured a small stage where either Fredbear or Spring Bonnie could make appearances during birthday celebrations. The expansion proved immediately popular. Bookings for weekend parties filled up months in advance, and the additional revenue stream allowed Henry and William to finally pay down some of their initial startup debt. The party room became the heart of the diner's family appeal, the place where countless children experienced their most memorable birthdays, where parents relaxed knowing their children were entertained and safe, or so they believed. With the expansion came the need for more sophisticated maintenance capabilities. Henry Emily, ever the practical engineer, designed and built a dedicated workshop in the newly acquired back area of the diner. This workshop was far more than a simple repair space. Henry equipped it with a full machinist lathe, a drill press, welding equipment, electrical testing stations, and organized tool walls that displayed every conceivable implement needed for animatronic maintenance. He installed a hydraulic lift that could hoist the heavy animatronic frames for easier access to their lower components. The workshop had its own ventilation system to handle welding fumes and paint vapors, and Henry insisted on proper lighting, installing banks of fluorescent fixtures that eliminated shadows and made detailed work possible. This workshop became Henry's sanctuary, the place where he could refine his designs away from the noise and chaos of the dining room. He kept meticulous logs of every repair, every adjustment, and every modification, documenting the ongoing evolution of his mechanical creations. William Afton, however, began to use the workshop for purposes that diverged significantly from Henry's methodical maintenance routines. Staff members noticed that William was spending increasing amounts of time alone in the workshop, often arriving before dawn or staying long after closing. He would lock the door from the inside, something Henry never did, and would emerge hours later with vague explanations about improving the response time or enhancing the facial servos. When employees knocked to ask questions or retrieve tools, William would often ignore them entirely or answer with obvious irritation. His work habits became erratic and obsessive. He stopped attending the weekly planning meetings that he and Henry had established. He missed family dinners, according to later interviews with his wife. His appearance grew disheveled, his eyes ringed with dark circles that suggested chronic sleep deprivation. Henry, focused on his own engineering challenges and trusting his business partner implicitly, initially dismissed these changes as the natural stress of running a growing business. Only in retrospect would the warning signs become clear. The animatronics themselves began to exhibit disturbing behaviors that no amount of technical expertise seemed able to explain. Staff members working closing shifts reported that the spring-lock suits, which were stored on specialized racks in a small room adjacent to the workshop, would sometimes be found in different positions than where they had been left. Spring Bonnie, in particular, became the subject of nervous jokes among employees. The suit would be facing the wall one night and facing the door the next morning. Its arm would be raised as if waving when everyone was certain it had been lowered. These discrepancies were small enough to attribute to faulty memory or to other staff members moving things without mentioning it, but they occurred with unsettling frequency. In October of 1976, a waitress named Diane Copeland was closing the diner alone, as was sometimes necessary when the business was understaffed. She was wiping down tables in the main dining room around 11:30 at night when she heard a distinct sound from the back hallway, a mechanical whirring followed by soft, dragging footsteps. Diane called out, assuming another employee had stayed late, but received no response. She approached the hallway cautiously and saw, or believed she saw, the spring Bonnie suit standing in the darkened corridor, its head turned toward her, its glass eyes catching the dim emergency lighting. She stood frozen for several seconds before the suit appeared to take a single, shuffling step forward. Diane fled the building immediately, leaving the front door unlocked in her panic. She reported the incident to management the next morning, but William Afton dismissed her account as the product of exhaustion and an overactive imagination. He suggested, with a patronizing smile, that perhaps one of the teenage busboys had been playing a prank. Diane never worked a closing shift alone again, and within 2 months she had quit entirely, citing the bad feeling the place gave her. The accumulated technical problems and ignored warning signs culminated in a disaster that could no longer be concealed or dismissed. During a busy Saturday afternoon performance in March of 1977, an employee named Gerald Humphreys was wearing the Fredbear suit to entertain a packed dining room. Gerald was an experienced performer who had worn the Springlock suits dozens of times without incident. He was midway through the signature Fredbear's Birthday song, gesturing enthusiastically to encourage audience participation when the unthinkable happened. Multiple springlocks failed simultaneously across the torso and right arm of the suit. The exact cause was never definitively determined, though later analysis suggested a combination of metal fatigue and humidity from Gerald's perspiration. The endoskeleton components snapped inward with catastrophic force. Metal beams pierced through Gerald's ribcage, puncturing his right lung. Crossbars crushed his forearm, fracturing both the radius and ulna. The animatronic jaw mechanism, no longer held in place, clamped down, partially lacerating Gerald's shoulder. He collapsed on stage, blood seeping through the golden fur of the Fredbear costume, visible to the horrified families in the audience. Parents screamed and rushed to cover their children's eyes. Henry Emily, who was in the building at the time, ran to the stage and began the agonizing process of manually releasing the remaining spring locks to free Gerald from the mechanical trap that was killing him. The ambulance arrived within 8 minutes, but those minutes stretched into an eternity of trauma for everyone present. Gerald Humphreys survived, though his recovery required multiple surgeries and months of physical therapy. He never returned to Fredbear's, and he never spoke publicly about the incident, bound by yet another non-disclosure agreement. The Springlock suits were immediately pulled from active use, placed in storage pending a comprehensive safety review that would take months to complete and would ultimately prove inadequate. William Afton was not ready to let go. When the emergency meeting convened in the cramped back office of Fredbear's Family Diner, still smelling of sawdust and grease, he made his position clear. The Springlock failure, he argued with characteristic intensity, was not a flaw in the design itself, but rather a failure of the operator to follow proper protocol. He pointed to the training manual he himself had helped draft, emphasizing the clear warnings about moisture exposure and the precise hand movements required to safely transition the suits between their animatronic and wearable modes. To decommission the Springlock suits entirely, he insisted, would be to throw away the very innovation that set Fredbear's apart from every other children's entertainment venue in the region. The ability for a performer to become the character, to interact directly with children while embodying Fredbear or Spring Bonnie, was irreplaceable. It was magic. And magic, William argued, should not be abandoned because of human error. Henry Emily listened to his partner's impassioned defense, but the image of the injured employee being loaded into the ambulance remained vivid in his mind. The screaming had stopped only when the paramedics administered morphine. The blood had seeped through the golden fur of the Spring Bonnie costume in dark, spreading patches. Henry had always been the more cautious of the two founders, the one who triple-checked wiring diagrams and insisted on redundant safety systems in the animatronic programming. Where William saw boundless possibility, Henry saw potential points of failure. He did not push for immediate decommissioning, knowing it would create an irreparable rift with William, but he made a counter-proposal. He would personally redesign the Springlock mechanisms from the ground up. He would add additional fail-safes, perhaps a moisture detection system that would lock the springs in place if humidity levels rose too high. He would create a more intuitive locking mechanism that reduced the number of precise hand movements required, minimizing the chance of user error. He would make the suits foolproof, or as close to it as engineering would allow. William agreed to this compromise, though his enthusiasm seemed muted. The two men shook hands in that back office, but something had shifted between them. It was subtle, barely perceptible, but it was there, a hairline fracture in the foundation of their partnership. The diner's reputation, meanwhile, began to suffer in ways both measurable and atmospheric. The local newspaper ran a brief item about an accident at Fredbear's family diner, carefully worded to avoid specifics, but enough to plant seeds of concern in parents' minds. Attendance dipped noticeably in the weeks following the incident. Birthday party bookings, once scheduled months in advance, began to see cancellations. Whispers circulated in the community. Some said an employee had nearly died. Others claimed the animatronics themselves had malfunctioned and attacked someone. The truth was somewhere in between, but truth mattered less than perception. Henry responded by implementing visible safety measures. He posted new signage throughout the diner, explaining the safety protocols in place. He personally addressed concerned parents who called walking them through the steps being taken to prevent any future incidents. He offered tours of the backstage area to demonstrate the care with which the animatronics were maintained. Slowly, incrementally, confidence began to rebuild. The diner remained open, the shows continued, and children still laughed at Fredbear's clumsy dance moves and Spring Bonnie's enthusiastic guitar playing. But the atmosphere had changed. There was a wariness now, a sense that something precious and innocent had been tarnished. What Henry did not know, what he could not have known in those early weeks, was that William Afton had no intention of waiting for the redesigned safety mechanisms. William had always possessed a peculiar relationship with rules and protocols. He viewed them as suggestions, guidelines for those less capable of understanding the deeper principles at work. He was brilliant. There was no denying that, but his brilliance came wrapped in arrogance and an unsettling disregard for consequences. In the late hours after the diner closed, when the cleaning crew had finished and gone home, William began returning to the building. He used his master key to enter through the back door, moving through the darkened dining room, where tables sat empty and the stage lights were dark. He made his way to the safe room, a space not marked on any public floor plan, where the spring-lock suits were stored when not in use. The safe room was a peculiarity of Fredbear's design, a hidden area that existed in a kind of legal and architectural gray zone, invisible to customers and even to most employees. It was here that William conducted his work. He wore the Spring Bonnie suit during these nocturnal visits, practicing the transitions between modes, testing the limits of the spring lock mechanisms, pushing them in ways the training manual explicitly warned against. He wanted to understand them completely, to master them so thoroughly that the suits became extensions of his own body. But there was something else, too, something harder to define. When he wore the suit, when he looked at himself in the cracked mirror mounted on the safe room wall and saw Spring Bonnie staring back, he felt different, powerful, untouchable. The suit transformed him, and he found himself craving that transformation. He began making modifications to the Spring Bonnie suit, small adjustments to the internal mechanisms that made it easier to wear for extended periods, that reduced the discomfort of the metal framework pressing against his body. He did not log these modifications. He did not inform Henry. They were his experiments, his innovations, and he owed no explanation to anyone. Henry discovered the discrepancies by accident. He was updating the maintenance logs one afternoon, cross-referencing the scheduled inspections with the actual work completed when he noticed irregularities. The Spring Bonnie suit showed signs of wear that did not match its documented usage. The locking mechanisms had been adjusted, the spring tension altered. Someone had been using the suit extensively, far more than the performance schedule would account for. Henry's first thought was that one of the employees had been taking the suit without permission, perhaps practicing on their own time. He checked the key log. Only 2 people had master keys to the building, himself and William. He approached William in the workshop, where his partner was sketching designs for a new animatronic character, something with a more complex endoskeleton that could achieve greater range of motion. The conversation was careful, diplomatic. Henry asked if William had been conducting any additional tests on the spring-lock suits. William did not deny it. He explained with perfect reasonableness that he had been working on refining the user experience, making the suits more intuitive. He had not wanted to bother Henry with the details, knowing how busy Henry was with the redesign of the safety mechanisms. It was a plausible explanation. It was even partially true. But Henry noticed that William did not meet his eyes when he spoke. He noticed the defensive set of William's shoulders. He noticed, and he filed the observation away in the growing catalog of concerns he harbored about his partner. Trust, once compromised, erodes in unpredictable ways. Henry found himself second guessing decisions he had once made instinctively. He began checking William's work more carefully, looking for shortcuts or oversights. He started keeping his own set of maintenance logs, separate from the official records. He did not confront William directly about his suspicions, because he was not entirely sure what he suspected. But the easy camaraderie they had once shared, the late nights spent sketching ideas on napkins and dreaming about expanding Fredbear's into a franchise, had curdled into something colder and more transactional. They were still partners. They still ran the diner together. But they were no longer friends. Not really. And perhaps they never had been. The staff situation deteriorated as well. 3 employees quit within a month of the Springlock incident. One of them, a young woman who had worked the price counter, told Henry during her exit interview that she could not shake the feeling that the animatronics were watching her. She knew it was irrational, she said, but she felt it nonetheless. Another employee, one of the performers who had occasionally worn the Fredbear suit, simply stopped showing up for shifts. When Henry finally reached him by phone, the man said he was done with the whole thing, that the suits gave him nightmares, that he woke up feeling phantom pressure around his chest, as if the spring locks were closing. Henry did not try to convince him to return. He understood. He had his own nightmares now. Replacing the departed staff proved difficult. Word had spread in the local community, and fewer people were willing to work at Fredbear's. Henry eventually hired replacements, but they were less experienced, less enthusiastic. The performances suffered. Fredbear's movements became more mechanical, less fluid, because the new operators had not yet mastered the nuances of the controls. Spring Bonnie appeared less frequently, in part because William insisted on being the primary operator for that suit, and his availability was unpredictable. The diner itself took on a different character. The lights seemed dimmer, though Henry had not changed the bulbs. The music seemed slower, though the tapes were the same. Fewer performances were scheduled. The focus shifted toward the arcade games and the food service, the basic functions of a restaurant, rather than the theatrical spectacle that had once defined Fredbear's identity. Parents still brought their children, but they watched more carefully now, staying closer to their kids, glancing toward the stage with expressions that mixed nostalgia with unease. Everything that happened later, all the tragedies that would unfold in the years to come, had their roots in this moment. William Afton's descent into malice did not begin with a single decision or a dramatic turn toward darkness. It began with small transgressions, with rules bent and then broken, with a growing conviction that he was above the constraints that governed ordinary people. It began in the safe room at Fredbear's family diner, in the late hours when he wore the Spring Bonnie suit and felt himself becoming something other than human. The seeds were planted. They would grow in terrible and unexpected ways. By 1983, the seeds planted at Fredbear's family diner were beginning to blossom into something far larger and more complex than anyone could have anticipated. What started as a modest family restaurant with 2 spring-lock animatronics was about to transform into a franchise that would define a generation and, tragically, claim lives in ways its creators never intended. Fredbear's family diner had proven itself as more than just a passing fad. The establishment founded by Henry Emily and William Afton had captured the imagination of children and parents alike throughout Hurricane Utah. The success of Fredbear, the jovial golden bear, and Spring Bonnie, his cheerful yellow rabbit companion, demonstrated that animatronic entertainment could be commercially viable on a scale neither partner had initially envisioned. The spring lock suits, those hybrid costumes that could function both as wearable mascot outfits and as standalone animatronics, represented a technological achievement that set Fredbear's apart from every other family restaurant in the region. These suits operated through a complex mechanism of spring loaded locks that, when cranked into place, would compress the animatronic components against the suit's interior walls, creating just enough space for a human performer to climb inside. When not occupied by a person, the springs would release, allowing the animatronic endoskeleton parts to expand and fill the suit, enabling the character to move and perform autonomously. But success breeds ambition, and William Afton's ambitions extended far beyond running a single diner. While Henry Emily remained focused on perfecting the entertainment experience and ensuring the safety and happiness of their young patrons, William's mind wandered into darker, more experimental territory. He began conducting private experiments with the animatronic technology, pushing the boundaries of what these mechanical performers could achieve. William wasn't satisfied with simple programmed movements and pre recorded voice lines. He wanted to understand the deeper mechanics of artificial life, to explore whether these machines could be made to do more than simply entertain. His workshop, separate from the main diner floor, became a laboratory where he would tinker late into the night, modifying endoskeleton components, testing new motion capabilities, and documenting his findings in notebooks that he kept carefully hidden from his business partner. Henry Emily, for his part, remained dedicated to the original vision of creating a safe, magical environment for children. Recognizing that a successful family establishment needed robust security measures, Henry designed and constructed the puppet, an animatronic unlike any that had come before. The puppet, also known as the marionette, was a slender, mask-faced figure that resided in a special music box. Its purpose was singular and noble, to serve as a security measure that would monitor the restaurant and specifically protect children from potential dangers. The puppet's design reflected Henry's engineering philosophy, elegant in its simplicity, yet sophisticated in its execution. The animatronic would remain dormant inside its gift-giving box as long as the music box continued to play, but if the music wound down, the puppet would emerge to patrol the premises. Henry programmed it with facial recognition capabilities and behavior monitoring protocols, essentially creating an automated guardian that could identify children who might be in distress or danger. The success of Fredbear's Family Diner attracted attention from investors and entrepreneurs who recognized the goldmine potential of animatronic family entertainment. This led to the founding of Fazbear Entertainment, a corporate entity designed to transform the single location into a full-fledged franchise. Fazbear Entertainment didn't simply partner with the existing diner, it absorbed it, taking over Fredbear's Family Diner and rebranding the concept for mass market appeal. The corporate structure brought capital, marketing expertise, and expansion capabilities that Henry and William could never have achieved on their own. However, it also introduced a layer of bureaucracy and profit-driven decision-making that would later prove catastrophic. The company's board of directors cared primarily about revenue and growth, viewing the animatronics as assets and the children as customers rather than the guests of honor that Henry had always considered them. With corporate backing secured, Fazbear Entertainment moved quickly to open the first official Freddy Fazbear's Pizza location. This wasn't merely a rebranded Fredbear's, it was a complete reimagining of the concept with a new cast of characters designed to appeal to a broader demographic. Freddy Fazbear himself, a brown bear with a top hat and bow tie, became the face of the franchise, the lead singer and frontman of the animatronic band. Bonnie, A blue rabbit with a red bow tie, who played guitar, brought musical talent to the stage. Chica, a yellow chicken with a bib reading Let's Eat, who wielded a cupcake companion named Mr. Cupcake, represented the restaurant's food offerings. And Foxy, a red pirate fox with an eye patch and hook hand, added an element of adventure and danger that children found thrilling. These four animatronics were more advanced than the spring lock suits, built on sophisticated endoskeletons with complex servo motors and pneumatic systems that allowed for fluid, lifelike movements during their performances. The new Freddy Fazbear's Pizza location was designed as a sensory wonderland for children. The main dining area featured dozens of tables surrounded by arcade games, prize counters, and colorful decorations. The show stage, positioned prominently at one end of the main room, provided a clear view of Freddy, Bonnie, and Chica performing their musical routines. Pirates Cove, a separate curtained area, housed Foxy, who would periodically emerge to entertain children with tales of high seas adventure. The entire establishment was engineered to keep children engaged, entertained, and begging their parents to return again and again. William Afton, now a co owner of a growing franchise, maintained his involvement in the day to day operations while continuing his private experiments. His family life, however, was becoming increasingly strained. His eldest son, Michael Afton, a teenager with a cruel streak and a talent for tormenting his younger brother, began working at Freddy Fazbear's Pizza as a night guard. The position was entry level, requiring minimal qualifications, and it gave Michael access to the building during off hours when the animatronics entered their free roaming mode, a feature designed to prevent their servos from locking up due to inactivity. Michael's employment at the pizzeria would prove significant in ways that extended far beyond a simple after school job. The puppet, Henry's security creation, was also transferred to the new Freddy Fazbear's Pizza location. The animatronic was installed in the prize corner, a room dedicated to arcade games and the redemption of tickets for toys and prizes. The puppet's music box sat atop a counter, and children quickly learned that the mysterious figure inside would only emerge when the music stopped, adding an element of eerie fascination to the restaurant's atmosphere. Parents found the puppet unsettling with its stark white mask, featuring rosy cheeks and purple tear streaks running from its eyes. But children seemed drawn to it, gathering around the prize corner to watch and wait for glimpses of the strange, slender figure. William Afton's younger son, known in the community primarily as the Crying Child, due to his perpetual state of fear and sadness, became utterly terrified of the animatronics. Unlike other children who squealed with delight at the mechanical performers, the Crying Child would break into sobs whenever he was brought near Freddy Fazbear's Pizza. His terror wasn't irrational or unfounded. The child had witnessed disturbing behavior from the animatronics, catching glimpses of their movements when they weren't performing, seeing the way their eyes would sometimes track across the room independent of their programmed routines, noticing details that other children overlooked in their excitement. Whether the Crying Child possessed some intuitive understanding of the darkness his father was weaving into these machines, or simply had a naturally anxious disposition, remains a matter of debate, but his fear was profound and unshakable. Michael Afton, rather than protecting or comforting his younger brother, instead weaponized this fear for his own amusement. The bullying escalated from simple teasing to elaborate psychological torture. Michael discovered that he could reduce his brother to a trembling, sobbing mess simply by wearing a Foxy mask or by holding a Fredbear plushie near the child's face while whispering threats about the animatronics coming to life. The infamous Fredbear plushie incident became a recurring nightmare for the Crying Child. Michael would corner his brother in their shared bedroom, dangling the golden bear toy above him while speaking in a distorted voice, pretending to be Fredbear himself, promising that the real animatronic knew about the Crying Child's fear and would come for him when he least expected it. As the crying child's birthday approached in 1983, William Afton made the decision to hold the party at Fredbear's Family Diner, the original location that still operated alongside the newer Freddy Fazbear's Pizza. Perhaps William believed that exposing his son to the source of his fear in a celebratory context would cure the phobia. Perhaps he was simply too absorbed in his work to recognize the cruelty of forcing a terrified child to celebrate in the place he feared most. Regardless of motivation, the party was scheduled, invitations were sent, and the crying child spent the days leading up to his birthday in a state of mounting dread. The day of the party arrived, and the crying child, tears already streaming down his face, was brought to Fredbear's Family Diner. Michael and his friends, a group of teenagers who all wore masks representing the Freddy Fazbear's Pizza animatronics, saw an opportunity too perfect to resist. The crying child is rushed to the hospital, his small body broken and his skull fractured from the crushing force of Fredbear's animatronic jaws. The medical staff works frantically to stabilize him, but the damage is catastrophic. His older brother, Michael, is consumed by guilt, standing vigil outside the hospital room while his father remains conspicuously absent for long stretches. The crying child drifts in and out of consciousness, his mind trapped between the waking world and something far darker. In these fevered dreams, he sees the animatronics, their eyes glowing in the darkness, their mechanical voices whispering promises and threats. The hospital becomes a liminal space where life and death blur together, where the boundary between flesh and metal begins to dissolve. William Afton visits his dying son, but his mind is elsewhere. The incident has triggered something in him, a morbid fascination that transcends paternal grief. He stands at the bedside, watching the monitors track his son's failing vital signs, and his thoughts turn not to prayer or hope, but to possibility. The animatronic that caused this tragedy was, in a sense, following its programming. It closed its jaws because that is what it was designed to do. But what if that mechanical impulse could be redirected, refined, controlled? What if the barrier between life and death was not a wall, but a membrane, something that could be pierced with the right tools, the right knowledge? William begins spending his nights in his private workshop, surrounded by blueprints and schematics, sketching designs that grow increasingly elaborate and disturbing. He fills notebooks with equations and diagrams, trying to quantify the unquantifiable, to reduce the human soul to a formula that can be manipulated and preserved. Back at the locations that remain open, strange things begin to happen. The puppet, that slender marionette that had been designed as a prize-giving attraction, starts behaving in ways that defy its programming. Employees report finding it outside its music box containment late at night, standing motionless in darkened rooms. Its movements become less mechanical and more fluid, almost organic. When children approach it during operating hours, it seems to watch them with an intensity that unnerves parents and staff alike. One employee swears they saw it reach out toward a crying child with what appeared to be genuine concern, its white mask tilted at an angle that suggested empathy rather than malfunction. The maintenance logs note repeated attempts to reset its behavior protocols, but nothing seems to work. The puppet has become something more than the sum of its parts, though no one can yet explain what that something is or why it seems so fixated on protecting the children who visit the restaurant. Fredbear's Family Diner, the original location where the bite occurred, closes its doors within weeks. The decision is framed as temporary, a brief pause to allow for safety inspections and equipment upgrades, but everyone knows the truth. The negative publicity is overwhelming. Local news stations run segments about animatronic safety, and parents organize meetings to discuss whether these entertainment venues should be allowed to operate at all. The diner sits empty, its cheerful exterior now a monument to tragedy. Inside, The Fredbear animatronic remains on stage, its jaws cleaned but still bearing microscopic traces of what happened. William Afton keeps the key to the building, visiting it alone after dark, standing in the silent dining room and staring at the machine that destroyed his son's life. But he does not see it with anger or sorrow. He sees it as a vessel, a container that once held something precious, if only for a moment. In his workshop, William makes a breakthrough. He has been studying the animatronics with a new lens, looking not at their mechanical components, but at the spaces between, the intangible elements that make them more than simple robots. He discovers something he will later call remnant, a substance that exists at the intersection of the physical and the metaphysical. It appears to be a byproduct of intense emotional trauma, particularly fear and agony, somehow imprinted onto metal and circuitry. When he examines components from animatronics that have been present during moments of high emotional intensity, he detects trace amounts of this substance, a faint shimmer that registers on none of his conventional instruments but which he can sense through methods he develops himself. Remnant, he theorizes, is the physical manifestation of the soul, or at least a fragment of it. If he can harvest it, concentrate it, and learn to manipulate it, he might be able to achieve what humanity has sought since the dawn of consciousness: immortality. Not the immortality of legacy or memory, but true, literal persistence beyond death. The experiments begin in secret. William starts small, testing his theories on animatronic parts, heating them to extreme temperatures, and then rapidly cooling them. A process he discovers helps to extract and concentrate remnant. He keeps meticulous notes, documenting every variable, every outcome. The work consumes him, transforming him from a businessman and engineer into something resembling an alchemist, pursuing forbidden knowledge in the shadows. His family sees less and less of him. His wife grows distant, troubled by changes in her husband she cannot name but can feel. His daughter Elizabeth notices her father's absence, but interprets it differently. She sees a man dedicated to his work, a creator of wonders, and she wants desperately to be part of that world. The crying child dies on a morning in late 1983. The doctors deliver the news with practiced sympathy, explaining that the brain damage was too severe, that they did everything they could. Michael collapses, the weight of his guilt finally crushing him. William receives the news with an expression that the doctors cannot quite read. It might be grief, or it might be something else entirely, something colder and more calculating. The funeral is small, attended by family and a few employees from the restaurants. The casket is closed. In the days that follow, William returns to his workshop with renewed intensity. His son is gone, but the work continues. In fact, the work has become more urgent than ever. If remnant is real, if souls can be bound to metal and machinery, then death is not an ending, but a transition. The crying child's soul must have gone somewhere. It must have attached itself to something. William becomes obsessed with finding it, with proving his theories correct. The puppet's behavior becomes even more pronounced after the crying child's death. It seems agitated, its music box winding down faster than it should, requiring constant attention from staff. When it emerges, it moves with purpose, as if searching for something or someone. Some employees quit, rather than work the night shift, unnerved by the way it seems to watch them. The connection between the puppet and the crying child remains unclear, a mystery wrapped in supernatural ambiguity. But those who work at the locations begin to sense that something fundamental has changed. The restaurants are no longer just places of entertainment. They have become something else, something haunted. Freddy Fazbear's Pizza, the flagship location of what is now being called Fazbear Entertainment, continues operating through all of this. The corporate response to the bite of '83 is carefully managed. Press releases emphasize that the incident occurred at a separate location, that new safety protocols have been implemented, that the animatronics at Freddy's have been thoroughly inspected and pose no danger. The strategy works well enough. Parents are cautious for a few months, but the appeal of affordable children's entertainment eventually wins out. The pizza is cheap, the games are fun, and the animatronics, despite everything, remain captivating. Fazbear Entertainment learns a valuable lesson. People have short memories, especially when convenience is involved. The company begins developing a playbook for handling incidents, a template for downplaying and deflecting that will serve it well in the years to come. Elizabeth Afton, William's daughter, becomes increasingly fascinated with her father's work. She is young, perhaps 5 or 6, but precocious and curious. She knows her father builds animatronics, and she has seen some of his creations. Her favorite is Circus Baby, a new design that William has been developing for a separate venture. Circus Baby is unlike the other animatronics. She is sleek and sophisticated, with bright red hair and a cheerful voice. She is designed to serve ice cream and interact with children in more complex ways than the earlier models. Elizabeth begs her father to let her see Baby up close, to play with her, but William refuses. He tells her to stay away, that Baby is not ready, that she is dangerous. But he does not explain why, and his secrecy only makes Elizabeth more curious. William announces plans for Circus Baby's Pizza World, a new location that will showcase his latest animatronic designs. The venture is ambitious, featuring not just Baby, but an entire cast of advanced animatronics, each with specialized functions. But the location never opens to the public. During a private testing event, tragedy strikes. Elizabeth, defying her father's warnings, approaches Circus Baby when no one is watching. The animatronics programming activates, and a hidden mechanism within Baby's chest cavity opens. Elizabeth is pulled inside, killed instantly by machinery designed for a purpose that has nothing to do with entertainment. William finds her too late. Circus Baby's Pizza World is quietly canceled, the animatronics placed in storage. William buries another child, and his transformation accelerates. As the year 1983 unfolded, the dark undercurrents of Fazbear Entertainment's origins began to surface, marking a turning point in the franchise's tragic history. One of the most pivotal events was the death of Elizabeth Afton, William Afton's young daughter. Elizabeth, fascinated by her father's creation, Circus Baby, disobeyed his warnings and approached the animatronic during one of its performances. Circus Baby, designed to entertain children, harbored a sinister mechanism, a claw-like appendage concealed within its torso. Tragically, it activated, capturing Elizabeth and ending her life. Her soul became trapped within Circus Baby, marking the first instance of an animatronic being inhabited by a human spirit. This event would set the stage for William's descent into further darkness as he began constructing a secret underground facility known as the Sister Location, a place where Circus Baby and other animatronics could operate away from prying eyes. This facility, hidden beneath the surface, was a testament to William's growing obsession with controlling life and death, as well as his desire to conceal his experiments from the public. Meanwhile, at Freddy Fazbear's Pizza, another entity was beginning to awaken: the puppet. Originally created as a security measure to protect children, the puppet began to exhibit a heightened awareness of the danger posed by William Afton. Its origins are tied to the death of Charlotte Emily, the daughter of Henry Emily, William's business partner and co-founder of Fazbear Entertainment. After Charlotte's tragic death outside the pizzeria, her soul merged with the puppet, granting it a protective instinct. Sensing the growing threat from William, the puppet began to actively intervene, attempting to safeguard the children who visited the establishment. However, its efforts would soon be tested as William's actions grew increasingly malevolent. William Afton, driven by a twisted curiosity, and a desire to understand the nature of life and death, began using a spring Bonnie suit to lure children to the back room of Freddy Fazbear's Pizza. The Spring Bonnie animatronic, part of a line of spring-lock suits that could be worn by humans, became William's tool of choice. Its friendly appearance made it the perfect disguise for his sinister intentions. One by one, he targeted children, exploiting their trust and leading them to their deaths. This series of murders would culminate in what is now known as the Missing Children Incident, a defining moment in the FNAF timeline. The Missing Children Incident involved the deaths of 5 children: Gabriel, Jeremy, Susie, Fritz, and Cassidy. Each child was lured by William under the guise of the Spring Bonnie suit and subsequently killed. Their bodies were hidden within the animatronics: Freddy, Bonnie, Chica, Foxy, and Golden Freddy. The puppet, sensing the danger, attempted to intervene during these events. It sought to protect the children, but its efforts were ultimately in vain. Unable to save them, the puppet instead facilitated the merging of their souls with the animatronics, ensuring that their spirits would endure and seek justice. This act of possession transformed the animatronics into vessels of vengeance, forever haunted by the souls of the murdered children. The aftermath of the Missing Children incident cast a long shadow over Freddy Fazbear's Pizza. Rumors of foul play began to circulate, fueled by the sudden disappearance of the children and the eerie behavior of the animatronics. Parents grew wary, and the once thriving pizzeria faced declining business. The animatronics, now inhabited by the souls of the victims, exhibited strange and unsettling behavior. They would roam the establishment at night, their movements erratic and their eyes glowing with an unnatural light. These anomalies only deepened the sense of unease surrounding the pizzeria. In response to the growing scrutiny, Fazbear Entertainment initiated a cover-up. The company sought to protect its reputation by downplaying the Missing Children incident and other tragedies linked to its establishments. Official statements dismissed the rumors as baseless, attributing the animatronics' behavior to technical malfunctions. Employees were instructed to maintain a facade of normalcy, even as whispers of the truth persisted. This culture of secrecy and denial would become a hallmark of Fazbear Entertainment's operations, further entrenching the darkness at the heart of the franchise. The events of 1983 also marked the beginning of William Afton's transformation into the infamous Purple Guy. His actions during this period, driven by a combination of scientific curiosity and sheer malice, set the stage for the horrors that would follow. The sister location, the Missing Children incident, and the puppet's awakening were all interconnected, weaving a tapestry of tragedy that would define the FNAF universe. The souls of the murdered children trapped within the animatronics and became a constant reminder of William's crimes, ensuring that his legacy would be one of fear and retribution. As the year drew to a close, the foundations of Fazbear Entertainment's dark history had been laid. The company's attempts to conceal the truth only deepened the mystery surrounding its origins, while the animatronics, now vessels for restless spirits, became symbols of the franchise's enduring horror. The puppet's role as a protector and the souls of the murdered children added layers of complexity to the narrative, setting the stage for the events that would unfold in the years to come. The year 1983, though marked by tragedy, was just at the beginning of a story that would continue to captivate and terrify fans of the FNAF series. In the shadows of Freddy Fazbear's Pizza, the puppet continued its vigil, its presence a silent testament to the lives lost and the justice yet to be served. The animatronics, now haunted by the souls of the murdered children, roamed the establishment, their movements driven by a desire for retribution. William Afton, meanwhile, retreated into the shadows, his actions hidden from the public eye, but forever etched into the fabric of the FNAF universe. The year 1983 had set the stage for a saga of horror and mystery, one that would continue to unfold in the years to come, drawing players deeper into the dark and twisted world of Five Nights at Freddy's. As the timeline progressed, the consequences of these events would ripple outward, shaping the future of Fazbear Entertainment and the lives of those connected to it. The missing children incident, in particular, would remain a focal point of the franchise's lore, a tragedy that underscored the dangers lurking beneath the surface of the seemingly innocent world of animatronics and pizza. The puppet's role as a protector in the souls of the murdered children added layers of complexity to the narrative, ensuring that the story of Fazbear Entertainment would continue to captivate and terrify fans for years to come. In the years following 1983, Fazbear Entertainment would face numerous challenges, from declining business to legal scrutiny. The company's attempts to cover up the missing children incident and other tragedies would only deepen the mystery surrounding its origins, while the animatronics, now vessels for restless spirits, became symbols of the franchise's enduring horror. The puppet's role as a protector in the souls of the murdered children added layers of complexity to the narrative, setting the stage for the events that would unfold in the years to come. The year 1983, though marked by tragedy, was just the beginning of a story that would continue to captivate and terrify fans of the FNAF series. As the timeline progressed, the consequences of these events would ripple outward, shaping the future of Fazbear Entertainment and the lives of those connected to it. The missing children incident, in particular, would remain a focal point of the franchise's lore, a tragedy that underscored the dangers lurking beneath the surface of the seemingly innocent world of animatronics and pizza. The puppet's role as a protector in the souls of the murdered children added layers of complexity to the narrative, ensuring that the story of Fazbear Entertainment would continue to captivate and terrify fans for years to come. In the years following 1983, Fazbear Entertainment would face numerous challenges, from declining business to legal scrutiny. The company's attempts to cover up the missing children incident and other tragedies would only deepen the mystery surrounding its origins, while the animatronics, now vessels for restless spirits, became symbols of the franchise's enduring horror. The puppet's role as a protector and the souls of the murdered children added layers of complexity to the narrative, setting the stage for the events that would unfold in the years to come. The year 1983, though marked by tragedy, was just the beginning of a story that would continue to captivate and terrify fans of the FNAF series. As the timeline progressed, the consequences of these events would ripple outward, shaping the future of Fazbear Entertainment and the lives of those connected to it. The missing children incident, in particular, would remain a focal point of the franchise's lore, a tragedy that underscored the dangers lurking beneath the surface of the seemingly innocent world of animatronics and pizza. The puppet's role as a protector in the souls of the murdered children added layers of complexity to the narrative, ensuring that the story of Fazbear Entertainment would continue to captivate and terrify fans for years to come. In the years following 1983, Fazbear Entertainment would face numerous challenges, from declining business to legal scrutiny. The company's attempts to cover up the missing children incident and other tragedies would only deepen the mystery surrounding its origins, while the animatronics, now vessels for restless spirits, became symbols of the franchise's enduring horror. The puppet's role as a protector in the souls of the murdered children added layers of complexity to the narrative, setting the stage for the events that would unfold in the years to come. The year 1983, though marked by tragedy, was just the beginning of a story that would continue to captivate and terrify fans of the FNAF series. Following the relatively uneventful early years of Fazbear Entertainment, the year 1985 marked a turning point in the franchise's dark history. This was the year when William Afton, co-founder of Fazbear Entertainment, alongside Henry Emily, began to delve into the sinister experiments that would forever alter the course of the company and the lives of those connected to it. Afton's obsession with immortality and the concept of remnant, a mysterious substance derived from the essence of life itself, became the driving force behind his actions. This era, known as the Missing Children Incident, would not only define Afton's legacy, but also set the stage for the haunting events that followed. William Afton's fascination with Remnant was rooted in his desire to cheat death. Remnant, as it would later be understood, is a substance that can be extracted from souls, particularly those of the deceased, and used to imbue objects with a form of life. Afton believed that by harnessing Remnant, he could achieve immortality. This pursuit led him to design the Spring Bonnie animatronic suit, a wearable costume that doubled as an animatronic endoskeleton. The suit was unique in its construction, allowing it to be worn by a human while also functioning as an animatronic. However, the suit's design had a fatal flaw. Its spring lock mechanism, which held the animatronic parts in place when worn, could fail if exposed to moisture or excessive movement, resulting in a catastrophic and often lethal malfunction. Despite this risk, Afton saw the Spring Bonnie suit as the perfect tool for his dark experiments. By 1985, Freddy Fazbear's Pizza had become a popular family entertainment center, drawing in crowds of children and parents alike. The restaurant was a bustling hub of activity, featuring animatronic characters like Freddy Fazbear, Bonnie the Bunny, Chica the Chicken, and Foxy the Pirate Fox. These animatronics were designed to entertain, singing songs and performing on stage to delight the guests. However, beneath the surface of this cheerful facade, Afton's malevolent intentions were taking shape. Using the Spring Bonnie suit, he began to lure children away from the safety of the main dining area. The Missing Children incident unfolded when Afton, disguised in the Spring Bonnie suit, approached 5 unsuspecting children. He used the guise of the friendly animatronic to gain their trust, leading them to a back room away from the prying eyes of staff and customers. Once isolated, Afton murdered the children, their lives abruptly cut short by his cruel actions. The details of these murders remain shrouded in mystery, but the aftermath would leave a lasting mark on the franchise. Afton, ever the cunning strategist, hid the children's bodies within the animatronics. The lifeless forms were concealed inside Freddy, Bonnie, Chica, Foxy, and Golden Freddy, an animatronic that would later become a key figure in the franchise's lore. The puppet, a sentient animatronic created by Henry Emily, played a pivotal role in the events that followed. Unlike the other animatronics, the puppet possessed a unique ability to perceive and interact with the supernatural. It detected the deaths of the children and sought to help them in their final moments. Drawing upon its own mysterious powers, the puppet imbued the children's souls with a form of life, allowing them to possess the animatronics that now housed their remains. This act of compassion, however, came with unintended consequences. The children's spirits, driven by grief and anger, began to manifest through the animatronics, causing them to behave erratically and aggressively. The animatronics, once symbols of joy and entertainment, became vessels of vengeance. Freddy Fazbear, Bonnie, Chica, and Foxy, now inhabited by the spirits of the murdered children, exhibited increasingly hostile behavior. Golden Freddy, a ghostly and enigmatic figure, also became a manifestation of the children's collective pain. These animatronics, driven by the vengeful spirits within them, began to target adults, particularly those who resembled their murderer. The once thriving Freddy Fazbear's Pizza became a place of fear and unease as reports of foul odors and blood leaking from the animatronics surfaced. Staff and customers alike grew alarmed by the strange occurrences, and the restaurant's reputation began to deteriorate. The Missing Children incident did not go unnoticed by the public. The disappearance of 5 children, coupled with the disturbing reports from Freddy Fazbear's Pizza, led to widespread panic and outrage. Parents demanded answers, and law enforcement launched an investigation into the disappearances. However, Afton's careful planning and the lack of concrete evidence allowed him to evade suspicion, at least for the time being. The negative publicity surrounding the incident forced Freddy Fazbear's Pizza to temporarily close its doors, marking the end of an era for the once beloved establishment. The events of 1985 would have far reaching consequences, not only for Fazbear Entertainment, but for the souls of the children whose lives were tragically cut short. The animatronics, now vessels of restless spirits, became harbingers of the franchise's darker themes. The puppet's intervention, while well intentioned, set the stage for a cycle of violence and retribution that would persist for decades. As Freddy Fazbear's Pizza closed its doors, the stage was set for the next chapter in the franchise's tumultuous history, one that would further explore the themes of loss, vengeance, and the pursuit of immortality. William Afton's actions in 1985 were not merely the acts of a murderer, but the beginning of a larger, more sinister plan. His experiments with Remnant and his manipulation of the animatronics were steps toward his ultimate goal, achieving immortality. The missing children incident, while a tragedy in its own right, was also a critical moment in Afton's journey toward becoming the shadowy figure known as Springtrap. The year 1985 marked the point at which the franchise's lore took a darker turn, setting the stage for the haunting events that would follow in the years to come. As Freddy Fazbear's Pizza closed its doors, the spirits of the children remained trapped within the animatronics, their cries for justice echoing through the empty halls of the restaurant. The puppet, was ever watchful, continued to play its role in the unfolding drama, guiding the spirits and seeking to bring closure to their untimely deaths. The missing children incident was not just a singular event, but a catalyst for the franchise's enduring themes of horror and redemption. The year 1985 would forever be remembered as the beginning of the end for Freddy Fazbear's Pizza and the start of a legacy defined by tragedy and terror. The missing children incident also highlighted the duality of the animatronics themselves. Once symbols of joy and entertainment, they became vessels of pain and vengeance. Freddy Fazbear, Bonnie, Chica, and Foxy, now inhabited by the spirits of the murdered children, were no longer the friendly characters they were designed to be. Instead, they became manifestations of the children's collective grief and anger, their erratic behavior a reflection of the turmoil within. Golden Freddy, a ghostly and enigmatic figure, further emphasized the supernatural elements at play, its presence a haunting reminder of the lives lost. The puppet's role in the events of 1985 cannot be overstated. Created by Henry Emily, the puppet was designed to protect and care for children, a purpose it fulfilled even in the face of tragedy. Its ability to perceive and interact with the supernatural allowed it to detect the deaths of the children and take action to help them. By imbuing their souls with a form of life, the puppet gave the children a chance to seek justice, even if it meant inhabiting the animatronics that once brought them joy. This act of compassion, however, came with unintended consequences as the children's spirits became trapped in a cycle of vengeance and retribution. The closure of Freddy Fazbear's Pizza in 1985 marked the end of an era for the franchise. The once thriving family entertainment center, now tainted by tragedy and fear, was forced to shut its doors. The missing children incident had left an indelible mark on the company's reputation, and the negative publicity surrounding the event made it impossible for the restaurant to continue operating. However, the closure of Freddy Fazbear's Pizza was not the end of the story. The spirits of the children remained, their cries for justice echoing through the empty halls of the restaurant. The puppet, ever watchful, continued to play its role in the unfolding drama, guiding the spirits and seeking to bring closure to their untimely deaths. The events of 1985 would have far-reaching consequences, not only for Fazbear Entertainment, but for the souls of the children whose lives were tragically cut short. The animatronics, now vessels of restless spirits, became harbingers of the franchise's darker themes. The puppet's intervention, while well intentioned, set the stage for a cycle of violence and retribution that would persist for decades. As Freddy Fazbear's Pizza closed its doors, the stage was set for the next chapter in the franchise's tumultuous history, one that would further explore the themes of loss, vengeance, and the pursuit of immortality. William Afton's actions in 1985 were not merely the acts of a murderer, but the beginning of a larger, more sinister plan. His experiments with Remnant and his manipulation of the animatronics were steps toward his ultimate goal, achieving immortality. The missing children incident, while a tragedy in its own right, was also a critical moment in Afton's journey toward becoming the shadowy figure known as Springtrap. The year 1985 marked the point at which the franchise's lore took a darker turn, setting the stage for the haunting events that would follow in the years to come. As Freddy Fazbear's Pizza closed its doors, the spirits of the children remained trapped within the animatronics, their cries for justice echoing through the empty halls of the restaurant. The puppet, ever watchful, continued to play its role in the unfolding drama, guiding the spirits and seeking to bring closure to their untimely deaths. The missing children incident was not just a singular event, but a catalyst for the franchise's enduring themes of horror and redemption. The year 1985 would forever be remembered as the beginning of the end for Freddy Fazbear's Pizza and the start of a legacy defined by tragedy and terror. As the investigations into the missing children's disappearances stalled, the case grew colder by the day. Law enforcement had little to go on, no bodies, no conclusive evidence, and only the faintest whispers of suspicion pointing toward Freddy Fazbear's Pizza. The restaurant's management, desperate to distance themselves from the tragedy, quietly scrubbed any mention of the incident from official records, leaving the families of the victims without closure. But while the authorities hit dead ends, the whispers among the staff grew louder. A shadowy figure, glimpsed in security footage or lurking near the animatronics, began to take shape in the collective unease of those who worked there. This was William Afton, now operating under an alias that would haunt the franchise's lore, the Purple Guy. The name, derived from his indistinct, purple-hued appearance in the pixelated security feeds, became synonymous with the unsolved horrors of 1985. Afton's crimes had consequences far beyond the physical. The spirits of the 5 children, Gabriel, Jeremy, Susie, Fritz, and Cassidy, were not at rest. Their souls, bound by rage and injustice, became trapped within the animatronics they had once adored. Freddy, Bonnie, Chica, Foxy, and later Golden Freddy became vessels for their anguish, their programming overwritten by something far more primal, a need for revenge. The animatronics, once cheerful entertainers, now moved with a predatory awareness, their empty eyes fixating on anyone who resembled their killer. But they were not alone in their vigil. The puppet, an animatronic imbued with a unique protective instinct, emerged as their guardian. Its spirit, that of Charlotte Emily, Afton's first victim and the daughter of his former business partner, took on the role of a shepherd, guiding the lost children and heightening their collective resolve. Afton, however, was far from finished. The disappearances were not merely acts of violence, but steps in a larger, more sinister experiment. He had discovered something he called Remnant, a metaphysical substance born from suffering and the lingering energy of souls bound to physical objects. The animatronics, now saturated with the agony of the children, became his unwilling test subjects. He returned to the restaurant under cover of night, tampering with their systems, extracting samples, and documenting the effects. His notes, later uncovered in hidden blueprints, revealed a man obsessed with cheating death itself. But his experiments came at a cost. The more he interfered, the more unstable the animatronics became. Their aggression, once directed solely at him, began to spill over onto the staff. Reports of malfunctions escalated, Bonnie's jaws snapping shut too close to a technician's fingers, Chica lunging at a janitor in the darkened hallways, Freddy's music box playing eerily on its own, as if beckoning someone into the shadows. The restaurant's management, either oblivious or willfully ignorant, attempted to reopen Freddy Fazbear's Pizza in a bid to salvage their reputation. The new and improved location promised stricter safety protocols, but the animatronic's erratic behavior made this impossible. Night guards reported being stalked through the security cameras, their shifts devolving into a desperate game of survival. The puppet, now fully aware of Afton's continued presence, orchestrated the animatronic's movements, herding them toward any potential threat. The restaurant became a battleground, the line between machine and spirit blurring beyond repair. Afton, sensing the walls closing in, decided to take drastic action. If the spirits could not be controlled, they would be destroyed. Armed with tools and a cold determination, he returned one final time to dismantle the animatronics. One by one, he tore them apart. Freddy's torso pried open, Bonnie's limbs unscrewed, Chica's beak wrenched loose, scattering their parts across the back room in a grotesque mockery of their former selves. But in doing so, he made a fatal miscalculation. The spirits, though fractured, were not so easily silenced. As he worked, the remnants of the animatronics began to move on their own. Parts twitched, eyes flickered, and then collectively they turned on him. The backroom confrontation was a moment of poetic justice. The children, their voices a chorus of static and whispers, cornered Afton. For the first time, the hunter became the hunted. He fled, scrambling for the only exit he could think of, the old spring Bonnie suit, a decommissioned animatronic costume once used for performances. In his panic, he ignored the warnings plastered on the walls about the suit's notorious instability. The spring locks, a delicate mechanism meant to hold the costume's endoskeleton in place, were prone to failure, especially in humid environments. As he clambered inside, the suit's ancient systems groaned under the strain. Then, with a series of sickening clicks, the spring locks gave way. The result was catastrophic. The metal endoskeleton snapped back into place, crushing Afton's body within the suit. His screams were muffled by the animatronic's jaws, his blood seeping into the fabric and machinery. The suit, now a gruesome tomb, twitched as his body convulsed, then fell still. To an outside observer, it might have looked like the spring Bonnie animatronic had simply powered on. But the truth was far worse. Afton was dead, but not gone. His own experiments with Remnant had unforeseen consequences. His spirit, steeped in malice and now bound to the very technology he had sought to control, became something new, something enduring. The restaurant, already hanging by a thread, could not survive this final blow. The dismantled animatronics, the bloodstained suit, and the lingering whispers of the missing children created an atmosphere too toxic to ignore. Freddy Fazbear's Pizza closed its doors for good, its legacy reduced to urban legends and half-remembered tragedies. But the story was far from over. The puppet, watching from the shadows, ensured the children's spirits remained united, and Afton, though trapped, was not finished. His death was not an end. It was the beginning of a new kind of horror. The springlock failure had birthed something the world wasn't ready for. Springtrap, a monstrous fusion of man and machine, waiting in the darkness for his chance to return. The missing children incident, though unresolved in the eyes of the law, had set into motion a cycle of violence and supernatural retribution that would span decades. The year 1985 marked not just a tragedy, but a turning point, one where the line between science and the supernatural dissolved entirely. And as the animatronics parts were packed away, as the building was left to rot, the echoes of what happened there lingered. The children's voices, Afton's laughter, and the puppet's mournful lullaby would all resurface again. But that is a story for another time. As 1985 progressed, the missing children incident reached its grim climax, forever altering the trajectory of Fazbear Entertainment and the lives entwined with it. William Afton, the architect of these horrors, met a fate as twisted as his crimes. After luring yet another group of children to their deaths, Afton found himself cornered in the abandoned Freddy Fazbear's Pizza location. In a desperate attempt to evade capture, he donned the decaying Spring Bonnie animatronic suit, unaware of its deadly design flaw. The spring lock mechanisms, designed to hold the suit's endoskeleton in place, failed under the moisture of his panicked breath, triggering a catastrophic collapse. The suit's metal framework pierced his body, trapping him in an agonizing fusion of man and machine. Afton's death was excruciating, but it was not the end. His malevolent spirit persisted, merging with the animatronic, transforming him into Springtrap, a monstrous hybrid driven by an insatiable thirst for destruction and control. Meanwhile, the puppet, a guardian born of tragedy, continued its solemn duty to protect the spirits of the murdered children. Programmed by Charlotte Emily, Henry's daughter, before her own untimely death, the puppet's role transcended its mechanical origins. It became a beacon of hope and vengeance, ensuring the children's spirits remained tethered to the animatronics they inhabited. Freddy, Bonnie, Chica, Foxy, and Golden Freddy were no longer mere machines. They were vessels of restless souls, bound together by the puppet's unwavering resolve. This spiritual connection allowed the animatronics to act independently, driven by the children's collective desire for justice. The puppet's influence extended beyond the pizzeria, weaving a protective barrier around the spirits, preventing them from fading into oblivion. Its actions ensured that the legacy of the missing children incident would persist, haunting Fazbear Entertainment for decades to come. The fallout from the missing children incident proved catastrophic for Freddy Fazbear's Pizza. The unresolved disappearances and the mounting rumors of animatronics behaving erratically eroded public trust. Parents grew wary, employees fled, and the pizzeria's reputation plummeted. Despite Fazbear Entertainment's efforts to downplay the incidents, the truth could not be suppressed. The company's attempts to sanitize its image only deepened the sense of unease surrounding the brand. By the end of 1985, Freddy Fazbear's Pizza closed its doors permanently, marking the end of an era. The closure was not merely a business decision, it was an admission of defeat in the face of overwhelming tragedy. The pizzeria's once vibrant halls fell silent, its animatronic stars consigned to storage, their haunted legacy intact. The animatronics, the now vessels of the children's spirits, were relocated to a warehouse where they awaited their next fate. This period of dormancy was not a reprieve, but a pause in their relentless quest for justice. The spirits, tethered to the animatronics by the puppet's intervention, remained active, their presence a silent reminder of the atrocities committed. The warehouse became a liminal space, a purgatory for both the animatronics and the souls they carried. It was here that the animatronics' haunted legacy began to solidify, their mechanical frames imbued with a supernatural energy that defied explanation. This storage period also marked the beginning of their transformation from entertainers to harbingers of vengeance, setting the stage for their eventual return. The missing children incident quickly ascended to the status of a dark legend within Fazbear Entertainment's history. It became a cautionary tale whispered among employees and dissected by those seeking to understand the company's tumultuous past. The incident's details were shrouded in mystery, obscured by corporate spin and the passage of time, but its impact was undeniable. It served as a grim reminder of the consequences of unchecked ambition and the dangers lurking beneath the surface of seemingly innocent entertainment. The missing children incident was not merely a tragedy, It was a turning point, a catalyst for the events that would unfold in the years to come. Amid the chaos, Henry Emily, co founder of Fazbear Entertainment, began to piece together the truth behind Afton's actions. Henry's investigation was driven by a personal connection to the tragedy. His daughter, Charlotte, had been one of Afton's earliest victims. Grief stricken yet determined, Henry sought to uncover the full extent of Afton's crimes and the role of the animatronics in perpetuating the cycle of violence. His inquiry led him to confront the darker aspects of Fazbear Entertainment's history, including the use of remnant, a mysterious substance derived from the spirits of the dead. Henry's discoveries would later inform his efforts to dismantle Afton's legacy and bring an end to the suffering he had caused. His investigation also deepened his understanding of the puppet's role as a protector, solidifying its place as a central figure in the ongoing conflict between the spirits and their tormentor. The puppet's role as a guardian became increasingly pivotal as the spirit's quest for vengeance intensified. Its actions were not limited to safeguarding the children's spirits. It also served as a counterbalance to Afton's malevolence. The puppet's interventions ensured that the animatronics retained their autonomy, preventing Afton from fully controlling them. This dynamic created a tense stalemate, with the spirits and Afton locked in a perpetual struggle for dominance. The puppet's presence was a constant reminder of the stakes involved, its haunting lullaby echoing through the halls of abandoned pizzerias and warehouses alike. Its role as a protector extended beyond the physical realm, influencing the spiritual fabric of the FNAF universe and shaping the events that followed. The spirit's quest for vengeance against Afton set the stage for future events in the FNAF timeline. Their determination to hold him accountable for his crimes drove much of the franchise's overarching lore, fueling the animatronics' relentless pursuit of justice. This quest was not without its challenges. The spirit's fragmented memories and Afton's cunning often thwarted their efforts. Yet their resolve never wavered, their collective anger a testament to the enduring impact of the missing children incident. This conflict would manifest in various forms throughout the series, from the animatronics' haunting of Fazbear's Fright to their final confrontation in Pizzeria Simulator. The spirit's quest for vengeance became a defining theme, intertwining with the franchise's exploration of guilt, redemption, and the consequences of one's actions. The missing children incident marked the beginning of the animatronics' haunted legacy, a legacy that would shape the FNAF universe for years to come. The incident's repercussions extended far beyond the pizzeria's closure, influencing the design, behavior, and narrative significance of the animatronics in subsequent games. Their transformation from cheerful entertainers to vengeful spirits was a direct result of Afton's actions, a testament to the enduring impact of his crimes. The animatronics' haunted legacy also served as a metaphor for the broader themes of the franchise, exploring the intersection of technology, humanity, and the supernatural. Their story was one of tragedy and resilience, a reminder that even in the face of unimaginable horror, the pursuit of justice remains a powerful force. As the timeline progresses, the missing children incident continues to cast a long shadow over Fazbear Entertainment and its associated locations. Its influence is felt in every animatronic's haunted gaze, every flickering light, and every whispered rumor. The incident's legacy is not confined to the past. It is a living, breathing entity, shaping the events of the present and future. The spirit's quest for vengeance, the puppet's role as a protector, and Afton's transformation into Springtrap are all threads in a complex tapestry, woven together by the enduring impact of the missing children incident. This era of the FNAF timeline is not merely a chapter in the franchise's history. It is the foundation upon which its lore is built, a testament to the power of storytelling and the enduring allure of the unknown. The year is 1987, and the story of Freddy Fazbear's Pizza takes another dark turn. Following the controversies and tragedies of the original location, haunted by the specter of the missing children incident, the company attempts to rebrand itself with a fresh start. The new Freddy Fazbear's Pizza, often referred to by fans as the FNAF2 location, opens its doors with a sleek, modern redesign and a new cast of animatronics. But beneath the polished surface, the shadows of the past linger, and the events of this year will cement the franchise's reputation for horror. This new pizzeria introduces the toy animatronics, Toy Freddy, Toy Bonnie, and Toy Chica, designed with cutting-edge technology to be more interactive and child-friendly. Their plastic shells and bright colors are a far cry from the weathered appearances of their predecessors. Alongside them is Mongol, a white and pink fox animatronic, originally intended to be a static character like the others. However, due to a controversial take apart and put back together gimmick for children, Mangle is left in a perpetual state of disrepair, its endoskeleton exposed and its movements erratic. These new animatronics are equipped with advanced facial recognition software tied to a criminal database, a feature meant to prevent another tragedy like the missing children incident. But as we'll see, this technology may have unintended consequences. Jeremy Fitzgerald, a young man seeking employment, is hired as the night guard for this new location. His job is simple in theory: monitor the security cameras and ensure the animatronics, which are programmed to roam at night to prevent their servos from locking up, don't cause any trouble. He's guided by the familiar voice of Phone Guy, whose pre-recorded messages offer instructions and warnings. Phone Guy explains the peculiar behavior of the animatronics, particularly their tendency to stare at adults with an unsettling intensity. He attributes this to the facial recognition system, suggesting it may be glitching. But Jeremy quickly realizes there's more to it than that. The puppet, an animatronic present at the original location, makes its return here. A tall, slender figure with a white, mask-like face. The puppet is unlike the other animatronics in both design and behavior. It emerges from a music box that must be wound up periodically to keep it docile. The puppet's movements are deliberate, almost purposeful, and its connection to the missing children incident becomes increasingly apparent. In the mini-games scattered throughout FNAF 2, we see the puppet giving life to the original animatronics, implying it played a role in the souls of the murdered children possessing the machines. Its presence in the new location suggests the past is far from buried. Meanwhile, reports begin to surface of the animatronics behaving strangely. They're seen in places they shouldn't be, their movements too deliberate to be mere programming errors. The toy models in particular grow increasingly aggressive toward Jeremy, their once friendly eyes now glowing with an eerie light. The withered animatronics, scrapped versions of the original Freddy, Bonnie, Chica, Foxy, and the elusive Golden Freddy, are stored in the back room, their dilapidated forms a grim reminder of the franchise's history. Though they're supposed to be inactive, they too begin to move at night, their hollow eyes fixed on Jeremy. The tension reaches a boiling point during the day shift. Unlike the original location, where the animatronics were only a threat at night, the toy models are allowed to roam freely during operating hours. This decision proves disastrous. On the final day of Jeremy's work week, a birthday party is held at the pizzeria. In what becomes known as the Bite of 87, one of the animatronics, most likely Mangle or Toy Chica, given their proximity to the frontal lobe, attacks Jeremy, severing a portion of his skull. The exact details are murky, but the aftermath is clear. Jeremy is rushed to the hospital, and the incident forces the company to implement a new policy. Animatronics are no longer permitted to roam during the day. their movements restricted to prevent further harm. With Jeremy hospitalized, the company scrambles to find a replacement. Enter Fritz Smith, a temporary night guard hired to cover the remaining shifts. Fritz's tenure is brief but notable. He's fired on his first night for odor and tampering with the animatronics, a detail that hints at a deeper familiarity with the machines. Some speculate Fritz may be an alias for Michael Afton, son of William Afton, the man behind the murders, but this remains a topic of debate among fans. The fallout from the bite of '87 is immediate. The new location, intended to revitalize the franchise, is shut down by year's end. The toy animatronics are scrapped, their advanced technology deemed too unpredictable, while the withered models are kept in storage, eventually retrofitted for use in a future iteration of Freddy Fazbear's Pizza. The puppet's fate is less clear, but its influence on the story is far from over. This period marks a turning point in the franchise's lore. The bite of '87 isn't just a gruesome incident, it's the catalyst for stricter safety measures, the downfall of another Fazbear establishment, and a chilling reminder that the animatronics are more than just machines. The pieces are moving, and the stage is set for even greater horrors to come. But before we delve into the next chapter, we must examine the lingering questions. Who was truly responsible for the bite? What role did the puppet play in the animatronic's aggression? And how does Jeremy's story tie into the larger web of tragedies? The answers, as always in the world of Five Nights at Freddy's, are shrouded in shadow. Following Fritz Smith's abrupt termination, the Freddy Fazbear's Pizza location of 1987 faced mounting challenges that would ultimately lead to its closure. Smith, a night guard hired to oversee the premises during its final days, was dismissed on his very first night. The reasons cited were twofold: tampering with the animatronics and odor complaints. While the odor issue remains ambiguous, the tampering accusation suggests Fritz may have attempted to alter the animatronics' programming, potentially in an effort to deactivate their aggressive behavior. This incident only added to the growing list of safety concerns plaguing the establishment, further tarnishing its reputation. The final nail in the coffin came with the infamous bite of '87, an event that would forever be etched into the franchise's lore. While the exact details remain shrouded in mystery, it is widely believed that one of the toy animatronics, designed with advanced mobility and facial recognition technology, was responsible for the attack. This incident, which left a victim severely injured, underscored the dangers of the animatronic's unpredictable behavior. The public outcry was immediate, and Freddy Fazbear's Pizza was forced to shut its doors shortly thereafter. The closure was attributed not only to safety concerns but also to the financial strain caused by dwindling customer trust and mounting legal liabilities. However, the story of the FNAF 2 location did not end with its closure. In the aftermath, William Afton, the man behind the murders of the children whose spirits now inhabit the animatronics, saw an opportunity to further his sinister agenda. Disguised as a technician, Afton infiltrated the abandoned pizzeria. His goal was clear: to dismantle the withered animatronics, the original models that had been repurposed for the 1987 location. These animatronics, which included Freddy, Bonnie, Chica, Foxy, and Golden Freddy, were vessels for the spirits of the children Afton had killed years prior. By destroying their physical forms, he hoped to sever their connection to the mortal world and silence their restless souls. Afton's actions were methodical and ruthless. He entered the back room of the pizzeria, where the withered animatronics were stored, and began dismantling them piece by piece. As he did so, the spirits of the children temporarily escaped their animatronic prisons, their ethereal forms manifesting in the shadows of the room. This moment of liberation, however, was short-lived. The puppet, a sentient animatronic that had long served as a protector of the children's spirits, intervened. Emerging from its box, the puppet reassembled the withered animatronics, allowing the spirits to repossess their mechanical bodies. The confrontation that followed was a turning point in the timeline. The spirits, now fully aware of Afton's presence and his role in their deaths, turned their wrath upon him. They emerged from the shadows, their animatronic forms twisted and menacing, and advanced toward their murderer. Afton, realizing the futility of his efforts and fearing for his life, fled the location in terror. This encounter marked a pivotal moment in the ongoing struggle between Afton and the spirits, solidifying the animatronics' resolve to protect themselves and seek justice for the atrocities committed against them. In the wake of this confrontation, the fate of the withered animatronics was sealed. Though they had been reassembled by the puppet, their damaged state made them unsuitable for continued use at the FNAF2 location. Instead, they were repurposed for the original Freddy Fazbear's Pizza, which would reopen years later in the events of the first FNAF game. Their design was simplified, their features made less intimidating, and their programming adjusted to adhere to stricter safety protocols. Despite these changes, the spirits of the children remained within them, ensuring that their presence would continue to haunt the franchise's narrative. The toy animatronics, on the other hand, met a far less dignified end. Deemed unsafe and unreliable following the bite of 87, they were scrapped and their parts sold off. These advanced models, which included Toy Freddy, Toy Bonnie, Toy Chica, Mangle, and Balloon Boy, were dismantled and discarded, their legacy reduced to cautionary tales about the dangers of unchecked technological innovation. While some of their parts may have found new life in other projects, their original forms were lost to history, a testament to the failures of Freddy Fazbear's Pizza's ambitious redesign. Amidst the chaos and destruction, one figure remained steadfast: the puppet. Having played a crucial role in reassembling the withered animatronics and protecting the spirits of the children, it continued to roam the abandoned FNAF2 location. Its presence served as a reminder of the tragedies that had unfolded within those walls and the enduring bond between the children and their protector. The puppet's actions ensured that the spirits would not be forgotten, their stories preserved in the annals of Freddy Fazbear's Pizza's dark history. As the dust settled on the closure of the FNAF2 location, the stage was set for the next chapter in the franchise's timeline. The withered animatronics, now repurposed for the original pizzeria, would go on to play a central role in the events of the first FNAF game. Meanwhile, the toy animatronics' demise marked the end of an era, their advanced technology and sleek designs consigned to the past. Through it all, the puppet remained a constant presence, its watchful gaze ensuring that the spirits of the children would never be silenced. The closure of Freddy Fazbear's Pizza in 1987 was not merely the end of a business venture. It was a turning point in a saga that would continue to unfold in the years to come. William Afton's infiltration and subsequent flight from the FNAF2 location marked a significant escalation in his conflict with the spirits. His failure to destroy the animatronics and silence the children's souls only deepened his obsession, driving him further down a path of madness and cruelty. This encounter also highlighted the resilience of the spirits, their determination to seek justice transcending the limitations of their mechanical forms. The puppet's intervention was a testament to the enduring bond between the children and their protector, a bond that would continue to shape the franchise's narrative in profound ways. The repurposing of the withered animatronics for the FNAF1 location was a pragmatic decision, but it also carried significant implications for the spirits inhabiting them. Stripped of their original designs and simplified for a new audience, these animatronics retained the essence of the children they housed. Their presence in the original pizzeria would go on to define the events of the first FNAF game, their haunting performances and erratic behaviors serving as a reminder of the tragedies that had unfolded years earlier. The withered animatronics journey from the FNAF 2 location to the FNAF 1 pizzeria was a testament to the enduring legacy of Freddy Fazbear's Pizza, a legacy built on both innovation and tragedy. The scrapping of the toy animatronics, meanwhile, underscored the franchise's recurring theme of technological ambition gone awry. Designed to be safer and more interactive than their predecessors, these animatronics ultimately proved to be more dangerous, their advanced features contributing to the Bite of '87 and the subsequent closure of the FNAF 2 location. Their demise served as a cautionary tale, a reminder of the risks inherent in pushing the boundaries of animatronic design. While their parts may have found new life in other projects, their original forms were lost, their legacy forever tied to the failures of Freddy Fazbear's Pizza's ambitious redesign. Throughout this turbulent period, the puppet remained a constant presence, its actions ensuring that the spirits of the children would not be forgotten. Its role in reassembling the withered animatronics and protecting the spirits was a testament to its enduring commitment to their cause. As the FNAF 2 location faded into obscurity, the puppet continued to roam its abandoned halls, its watchful gaze a reminder of the tragedies that had unfolded within those walls. Its presence would continue to shape the franchise's narrative, its actions serving as a beacon of hope amidst the darkness that surrounded Freddy Fazbear's Pizza. The closure of Freddy Fazbear's Pizza in 1987 was a pivotal moment in the franchise's timeline, marking the end of an era and the beginning of a new chapter. The events that unfolded in its wake, from Afton's infiltration to the repurposing of the withered animatronics, would go on to shape the narrative of the first FNAF game and beyond. Through it all, the spirits of the children remained a constant presence, their determination to seek justice transcending the limitations of their mechanical forms. The puppet's role in protecting these spirits ensured that their stories would not be forgotten, their legacy preserved in the annals of Freddy Fazbear's Pizza's dark history. As the franchise continued to evolve, the events of 1987 would remain a cornerstone of its narrative, a reminder of the tragedies that had unfolded and the enduring bond between the children and their protector. As the Freddy Fazbear's Pizza location of 1987 falls into disrepair, the echoes of its troubled past begin to reverberate through the franchise's timeline. The phone guy, a recurring figure in the series, steps into the spotlight once more, this time recording a series of training tapes for the upcoming FNAF 1 location. These tapes, while ostensibly meant to guide new employees, carry subtle references to the chaos that unfolded at the FNAF 2 location. Phone Guy's calm, almost detached demeanor belies the gravity of the events he alludes to, hinting at the company's attempts to downplay the tragedies while still acknowledging the need for caution. His mention of the animatronic's tendency to wander and the infamous bite serves as a chilling reminder of the dangers inherent in the Fazbear brand. Meanwhile, the FNAF 2 location itself is left abandoned, its once bustling halls now silent and decaying. Rumors of hauntings and paranormal activity begin to circulate, fueled by the unsettling discoveries made during its brief operation. The withered animatronics, remnants of the previous iteration of Freddy Fazbear's Pizza, are left to gather dust, their tattered forms a grim testament to the horrors they've witnessed. Yet these animatronics are far from lifeless. The spirits of the children who perished in the missing children incident remain active within them, their restless souls unable to find peace. This unresolved tragedy becomes a cornerstone of the franchise's lore, as the children's spirits continue to seek justice and closure, their presence haunting both the physical and metaphysical spaces of the series. Amidst this turmoil, William Afton, the man behind the tragedies, begins to plot his next move. Afton, also known as the infamous Purple Guy, is a figure shrouded in mystery and malevolence. His motivations, while rooted in a twisted fascination with immortality and control, remain enigmatic, adding layers of complexity to his character. The closure of the FNAF2 location does not mark the end of his machinations. Rather, it serves as a catalyst for his next phase of experimentation and destruction. Afton's actions in the wake of the FNAF2 closure set the stage for the events of FNAF1 and beyond, as he continues to manipulate the animatronics and the company itself to further his dark agenda. The puppet, a key figure in the franchise's lore, begins to emerge as a protector of the children's spirits. Originally introduced as a seemingly innocuous animatronic, the puppet's true role becomes more evident as the timeline progresses. It is revealed that the puppet was instrumental in giving life to the children's spirits within the animatronics, a process that underscores its deeper significance in the narrative. The puppet's actions are driven by a sense of duty and compassion, contrasting sharply with Afton's malevolence. This duality between protector and destroyer becomes a central theme in the series, as the puppet's efforts to safeguard the children's spirits are continually thwarted by Afton's relentless pursuit of power. The closure of the FNAF2 location marks the end of the so-called new and improved Freddy Fazbear's Pizza era, a period characterized by innovation and ambition, but also by tragedy and failure. The company's attempts to rebrand and revitalize its image are ultimately undone by the events that transpired within its walls. The Bite of 87, a pivotal event in the timeline, serves as a grim reminder of the dangers posed by the animatronics. This incident, in which an animatronic allegedly bit a human, leads to significant changes in the design and programming of future animatronics, as well as the implementation of stricter safety protocols. The Bite of 87 not only influences the franchise's technological evolution, but also serves as a turning point in the public's perception of Freddy Fazbear's Pizza, further tarnishing its reputation. The short-lived operation of the FNAF2 location highlights the company's ongoing struggles with safety and public perception. Despite its best efforts, Freddy Fazbear's Pizza is unable to escape the shadow of its troubled past. The events at the FNAF2 location, from the missing children incident to the Bite of 87, underscore the company's inability to address the root causes of its problems. This failure to learn from past mistakes sets the stage for the darker and more sinister events that follow in the FNAF series. The closure of the FNAF2 location is not an end, but rather a continuation of the franchise's descent into chaos and horror. As the timeline progresses, the events at the FNAF2 location serve as a crucial link between the franchise's past and future. The spirits of the children, trapped within the withered animatronics, continue to seek justice, their presence a constant reminder of the tragedies that have unfolded. William Afton's machinations, driven by his insatiable desire for power and control, propel the narrative forward, leading to new horrors and challenges. The puppet's role as a protector of the children's spirits becomes increasingly significant as it strives to counteract Afton's malevolence. The Bite of 87, a defining moment in the timeline, influences the design and functionality of future animatronics, shaping the franchise's technological evolution. In the broader context of the FNAF series, the closure of the FNAF2 location represents a turning point, marking the end of an era and the beginning of a new chapter in the franchise's lore. The events that transpired within its walls, from the missing children incident to the bite of 87, leave a lasting impact on the narrative, shaping the trajectory of the series. The spirits of the children, William Afton's machinations, and the puppet's protective role all converge to create a complex and multifaceted narrative that continues to captivate and terrify audiences. As the franchise moves forward, the legacy of the FNAF 2 location remains a central theme, its closure serving as a harbinger of the darker and more sinister events to come. The FNAF 2 location's closure also underscores the company's inability to escape its troubled past. Despite its efforts to rebrand and revitalize its image, Freddy Fazbear's Pizza is haunted by the tragedies that have unfolded within its walls. The missing children incident, the bite of 87, and the subsequent hauntings all contribute to the company's downfall as public perception of the brand continues to deteriorate. This failure to address the root causes of its problems sets the stage for the darker and more sinister events that follow in the FNAF series, as the franchise delves deeper into themes of horror, tragedy, and the supernatural. As the timeline progresses, the events at the FNAF 2 location continue to shape the narrative, influencing the actions and motivations of key characters. The spirits of the children, trapped within the withered animatronics, remain a constant presence, their restless souls seeking justice and closure. William Afton's machinations, driven by his insatiable desire for power and control, propel the narrative forward, leading to new horrors and challenges. The puppet's role as a protector of the children's spirits becomes increasingly significant as it strives to counteract Afton's malevolence. The bite of 87, a defining moment in the timeline, influences the design and functionality of future animatronics, shaping the franchise's technological evolution. In the broader context of the FNAF series, the closure of the FNAF 2 location represents a turning point, marking the end of an era and the beginning of a new chapter in the franchise's lore. The events that transpired within its walls, from the missing children incident to the bite of 87, leave a lasting impact on the narrative, shaping the trajectory of the series. The spirits of the children, William Afton's machinations, and the puppet's protective role all converge to create a complex and multifaceted narrative that continues to captivate and terrify audiences. As the franchise moves forward, the legacy of the FNAF 2 location remains a central theme, its closure serving as a harbinger of the darker and more sinister events to come. The FNAF 2 location's closure also underscores the company's inability to escape its troubled past. Despite its efforts to rebrand and revitalize its image, Freddy Fazbear's Pizza is haunted by the tragedies that have unfolded within its walls. The missing children incident, the bite of 87, and the subsequent hauntings all contribute to the company's downfall, as public perception of the brand continues to deteriorate. This failure to address the root causes of its problems sets the stage for the darker and more sinister events that follow in the FNAF series, as the franchise delves deeper into themes of horror, tragedy, and the supernatural. As the timeline progresses, the events at the FNAF 2 location continue to shape the narrative, influencing the actions and motivations of key characters. The spirits of the children, trapped within the withered animatronics, remain a constant presence, their restless souls seeking justice and closure. William Afton's machinations, driven by his insatiable desire for power and control, propel the narrative forward, leading to new horrors and challenges. The puppet's role as a protector of the children's spirits becomes increasingly significant as it strives to counteract Afton's malevolence. The bite of 87, a defining moment in the timeline, influences the design and functionality of future animatronics, shaping the franchise's technological evolution. In the broader context of the FNAF series, the closure of the FNAF 2 location represents a turning point, marking the end of an era and the beginning of a new chapter in the franchise's lore. The events that transpired within its walls, from the missing children incident to the bite of 87, leave a lasting impact on the narrative, shaping the trajectory of the series. The spirits of the children, William Afton's machinations, and the puppet's protective role all converge to create a complex and multifaceted narrative that continues to captivate and terrify audiences. As the franchise moves forward, the legacy of the FNAF 2 location remains a central theme, its closure serving as a harbinger of the darker and more sinister events to come. In the year 2023, the shadow of Freddy Fazbear's Pizza, a franchise long thought to be buried in infamy, was resurrected in a bold and macabre venture. This was the era of Fazbear's Fright, a horror attraction designed to capitalize on the urban legends and whispered tales of the once iconic pizzerias. Decades after the closure of the original locations, the tragic history of Freddy Fazbear's Pizza had become the stuff of local folklore, a dark undercurrent in the cultural memory of the community. It was this very notoriety that inspired a group of entrepreneurs to create Fazbear's Fright, a place where the horrors of the past could be relived, albeit in a controlled and theatrical setting. The attraction was built in an abandoned warehouse, a location chosen for its eerie atmosphere and its ability to evoke the decaying, forgotten spaces of the original pizzerias. The creators of Fazbear's Fright went to great lengths to recreate the unsettling ambiance of Freddy Fazbear's Pizza, filling the space with dim lighting, flickering fluorescence, and the faint hum of machinery. The goal was to immerse visitors in an experience that felt authentic, as if they were stepping into the very locations where the tragedies had unfolded. To achieve this, the team scoured old Fazbear locations for artifacts, salvaging anything that could lend credibility to their attraction. These artifacts included broken animatronic parts, old arcade machines, faded posters, and even fragments of the original decor. Each piece was carefully curated and integrated into the attraction, creating a patchwork of the franchise's dark history. It was during one of these scavenging expeditions that the team made a discovery that would change the course of Fazbear's Fright forever. Deep within the ruins of an old Fazbear location, they uncovered the remains of Springtrap, an animatronic suit that had become infamous in its own right. Springtrap was no ordinary animatronic. It was a relic of the franchise's darkest chapter, a suit that had once been used in the twisted experiments of William Afton, the man behind the murders that had haunted Freddy Fazbear's Pizza for decades. More than that, Springtrap contained Afton's corpse, the man himself having met his end within the suit's mechanisms years earlier. The discovery of Springtrap was both a coup and a curse for Fazbear's Fright. Here was a piece of history so gruesome, so steeped in horror, that it promised to elevate the attraction to new heights. Yet it also carried with it a malevolent presence, a reminder that the past was not as dead as it seemed. Springtrap was brought to Fazbear's Fright and installed as the centerpiece of the attraction. Advertised as the star of the show, Springtrap became the focal point of the experience, drawing visitors with the promise of confronting the very embodiment of Freddy Fazbear's darkest secrets. The animatronic was displayed in a glass case, its mangled form illuminated by a single, flickering light. Visitors could walk up to the case and stare into the hollow eyes of the suit, its twisted grin frozen in a macabre semblance of life. For many, it was a chilling encounter, a reminder of the horrors that had unfolded years earlier. Yet as the days went by, the staff of Fazbear's Fright began to notice strange occurrences within the attraction. Unexplained noises echoed through the halls, Machinery malfunctioned without cause, and the air seemed to grow heavier, as if the very walls were alive with a malevolent energy. Among these disturbances, Springtrap itself began to exhibit signs of activity. The animatronic, long thought to be inert, would shift slightly in its case, its head turning as if to follow visitors as they passed. At first, these movements were dismissed as mechanical glitches, the result of aging components and faulty wiring. But as the incidents grew more frequent and more deliberate, it became clear that something far more sinister was at work. The staff began to whisper that Springtrap was alive, that the spirit of William Afton still lingered within the suit, trapped but not defeated. This theory was supported by the behavior of the animatronic, which seemed to display a level of intelligence and purpose that went beyond mere programming. Springtrap's movements were calculated, its actions deliberate, as if it were biding its time, waiting for the right moment to strike. The spirits of the children Afton had murdered decades earlier also began to manifest within Fazbear's Fright. These restless souls, bound to the animatronics that had become their tombs, sought vengeance against the man who had taken their lives. Their presence added to the growing sense of unease within the attraction, their whispers echoing through the halls and their forms flickering in the shadows. For the staff, the line between reality and illusion began to blur as they found themselves haunted by visions of the past. These manifestations were not mere hallucinations, but the lingering remnants of a tragedy that had never been resolved. The children's spirits were drawn to Fazbear's Fright, drawn to the place where their killer now resided, and they would not rest until justice was served. The security guard working the night shift at Fazbear's Fright became the primary witness to these supernatural events. Tasked with monitoring the attraction during the hours when it was closed to the public, the guard found themselves at the center of a nightmare. The nights were long and fraught with tension as the guard navigated the dark, labyrinthine halls of the warehouse, their flashlight cutting through the oppressive gloom. It was during one of these shifts that the guard encountered Springtrap roaming the facility, no longer confined to its glass case. The animatronic moved with a predatory grace, its movements slow and deliberate, as if it were stalking its prey. The guard's encounters with Springtrap were harrowing, as they were forced to evade the animatronic while trying to uncover the truth behind its resurgence. Each encounter left the guard more shaken, more aware of the danger they were in. As the guard explored the facility, they discovered old Fazbear memorabilia hidden in the shadows, remnants of a time-long past. Among these artifacts were arcade machines, their screens flickering with static, and posters advertising the original Freddy Fazbear's pizza locations. These items were more than just relics. They were clues, pieces of a puzzle that hinted at the franchise's dark history. The guard began to piece together the story of Freddy Fazbear's Pizza, uncovering the events that had led to its downfall and the role William Afton had played in the tragedy. The arcade machines in particular seemed to hold a strange power, their screens flickering with images of the past, as if they were trying to communicate something. The guards' discoveries added depth to the horror of Fazbear's Fright, as they realized that the attraction was not just a recreation of the past, but a continuation of it. The rise of Fazbear's Fright marked a turning point in the saga of Freddy Fazbear's Pizza. It was a time when the horrors of the past were brought into the present, when the line between reality and fiction was blurred beyond recognition. The attraction, designed to capitalize on the franchise's notoriety, became a place where the spirits of the past could enact their vengeance, where the sins of William Afton could not be buried. For the staff and visitors of Fazbear's Fright, the experience was one of terror and revelation as they confronted the dark truths that had been hidden for so long. And for Springtrap, it was a chance to reclaim the legacy of its creator, to ensure that the name William Afton would never be forgotten. The rise of Fazbear's Fright was not just the story of a horror attraction, it was the story of a reckoning, a moment when the past refused to stay buried. As Springtrap lurked in the shadows of Fazbear's Fright, his presence became increasingly brazen. The animatronic, housing the remnant-infused consciousness of William Afton, began dismantling critical systems throughout the attraction with chilling precision. Security cameras were disabled one by one, their feeds glitching to static as wires were severed with surgical cuts. Ventilation systems faltered as crucial components were removed, leaving the air thick with the scent of mildew and rust. These weren't the actions of a mindless machine, but of a predator systematically disabling its enclosure, a tactic Afton had perfected decades earlier at the original's Freddy Fazbear's Pizza. The night guard, reviewing footage on their tablet, would notice strange anomalies, tools moving independently, doors unbolting themselves, and in one harrowing instance, a shadowy figure caught mid-stride in Camera Zero Seven's blind spot before the feed cut entirely. The spirits of Afton's victims, tethered to the physical plane by their unfinished business, recognized their murderer's return. Their energy manifested through increasingly desperate attempts to communicate with the guard. Arcade cabinets in the Fazbear's Fright Game corner would flicker to life unprompted, displaying pixelated recreations of the missing children incident. 5 blocky figures surrounding a purple sprite near Pirate Cove. Audio tapes left scattered by the attraction's creators would play distorted snippets of children's laughter before warping into guttural screams, then resetting as if nothing had occurred. Most chilling were the phantom animatronics, translucent specters of Freddy, Bonnie, Chica, and Foxy that would materialize in the guard's peripheral vision before vanishing when confronted. These weren't random hauntings, but a collective effort to reveal the truth. On night 4, the guard would discover a waterlogged drawing tucked behind a ventilation panel, a crayon depiction of 5 children holding hands, their smiles scratched out with what forensics would later determine to be human fingernail marks. The fire that would ultimately consume Fazbear's Fright began, ironically, due to the same corporate negligence that had plagued the franchise for decades. Investigators would trace the initial spark to a faulty junction box near the horror hallway exhibit, its wiring overloaded by the attraction's excessive use of flickering strobe lights and malfunctioning animatronic props. But the blaze found perfect tinder in the decades-old memorabilia crammed into every corner. Vintage posters from the 1980s locations, moth-eaten plush toys, and stacks of employee paperwork soaked through with decades of accumulated grease and dust. Security footage recovered from a fireproof safe showed the exact moment a spark leapt onto a pile of retired Freddy heads, their polyurethane fur igniting like gasoline. Within 90 seconds, the entire west wing became impassable, flames licking at the ceiling tiles as black smoke pooled in thick waves. Springtrap's reaction to the inferno revealed the monstrous duality of his existence. As flames engulfed the salvaged animatronics exhibit, the suit's rabbit ears were seen twisting toward heat sources, like a predator assessing threats, its endoskeleton fingers flexing in anticipation. When burning debris collapsed onto its left arm, the animatronic didn't flinch. It methodically used its right hand to tear the damaged limb free, sacrificing mobility for survival in a move that mirrored Afton's own calculated brutality. Motion sensors recorded it moving with purposeful strides toward emergency exits, only to double back when encountering impassable flames, demonstrating a chilling capacity for tactical adaptation. The creature seemed to prioritize escape routes that passed by security offices, suggesting it was still hunting even as the building burned around it. For the night guard, survival became a harrowing gauntlet. Trapped in the security office as fire alarms wailed, they were forced to navigate collapsing hallways filled with toxic smoke. The building's sprinkler system, never properly maintained, produced only a pathetic trickle that evaporated instantly on contact with superheated metal. Their final dash to safety was nearly thwarted by Springtrap itself. Cameras showed the animatronic lunging from a burning prop closet, mere feet from the staff exit, its remaining arm outstretched in a grotesque parody of the bear hugs Freddy Fazbear's characters were known for. Only a collapsing support beam, crashing down at precisely the right moment, created the diversion needed for escape. The guard would later tell investigators they'd heard something impossible in those final moments. A synthesized voice from the animatronic's damaged vocal modulator, rasping, "I always come back," as the door slammed shut behind them. The fire's aftermath resembled a war zone. By dawn, Fazbear's fright had been reduced to a skeletal frame of blackened support beams and melted animatronic parts. Firefighters would note the peculiar way certain items had burned, plastic animatronic shells bubbling into unrecognizable sludge, while paper documents mere inches away remained mysteriously intact. Most disturbingly, the fire's spread patterns suggested pockets of unnatural resistance. Claw marks were found leading toward an emergency exit, where the flames had seemingly burned hottest, as if something had struggled against an invisible barrier. When salvage teams sifted through the wreckage weeks later, they'd catalog every fragment of animatronic endoskeleton and charred costume piece, but Springtrap's distinctive rabbit ears and cross-stitched torso were nowhere to be found. Only a single piece of evidence hinted at its fate: a trail of heavy footprints leading from the building's ruins into a nearby storm drain, their depth suggesting whatever made them was carrying significant weight. For the spirits of Gabriel, Jeremy, Susie, Fritz, and Cassidy, the original missing children, the fire represented both justice and release. Security monitors in the guard's office had captured fleeting images in the smoke: 5 shadowy figures surrounding a burning animatronic before the cameras failed. Paranormal investigators would later identify these as memory imprints, a phenomenon where intense emotional energy leaves temporary marks on electronic equipment. The spirits' final act appeared to be an attempt at containment, using their collective energy to keep Springtrap in the flames as long as possible. Whether this succeeded remains debated. While no child-sized remains were found in the wreckage, investigators did recover 5 oddly pristine plastic figurines from the ashes, their colors matching the original animatronics. These were later donated to the Hurricane County Historical Society, where, according to staff, they've never needed dusting. Corporate attempts to spin the disaster were predictably tone-deaf. Fazbear Entertainment's official statement claimed the fire was an unfortunate accident during routine maintenance. Despite overwhelming evidence, the building had been operating far beyond safety codes. Insurance investigators discovered that the attraction's owners had actually increased the policy coverage on Springtrap days before the fire, leading to speculation about arson for profit. But the most damning evidence came from a recovered voicemail left by manager Phone Dude to an unknown recipient. "Yeah, we found him. The real one. Just like the stories said. Still moves around at night. Still tries to stuff people into suits. We're putting him front and center next week." This recording, coupled with the disappearance of several maintenance workers in the days preceding the fire, suggested Fazbear's Frights management had been fully aware of the danger they were housing. As the investigation wound down, a peculiar pattern emerged in witness statements. Multiple firefighters reported seeing something moving in the smoke that didn't match human proportions. One EMT swore he'd treated a patient with rabbit ears before the figure vanished from the ambulance. Most chilling was the security guard's final interview, where they described a nightmare recurring every night since the fire: a charred animatronic standing at the foot of their bed, its voice box repeating a distorted version of the Fazbear Entertainment jingle. Whether these were trauma-induced hallucinations or something more supernatural remains unknown, but they ensured one undeniable truth. In the public consciousness, Springtrap had transcended urban legend and become something far more persistent. The historical significance of Fazbear's Fright's destruction cannot be overstated. For the first time since 1993, there was no physical location tied to the Fazbear legacy. No pizzeria, no attraction, not even a warehouse storing leftover memorabilia. This complete severing from the past should have provided closure, yet the absence of Springtrap's remains left the door ajar for speculation. Forensic analysts would spend months poring over the site, discovering disturbing details that defied explanation. Patches of floor where the concrete had melted downward rather than upward, as if subjected to intense cold rather than heat. A trail of what appeared to be hydraulic fluid leading from the main exhibit hall to a service entrance, despite all animatronics supposedly being decommissioned before the fire. And most baffling of all, a single undamaged security badge belonging to one William Afton, its photo eerily pristine despite having been lodged beneath a collapsed wall for what records indicated had to be at least 30 years. In the years following the incident, Fazbear's Fright would become a cautionary tale about greed and the dangers of exploiting tragedy. But for those who'd experienced the attraction firsthand, who'd seen the way shadows moved against the light, who'd heard whispers in empty corridors, the real horror wasn't in what burned that night, but in what might have walked away. The disappearance of Springtrap, the animatronic housing the malevolent spirit of William Afton, became a focal point of speculation following the fire at Fazbear's Fright in 2023. Despite the blaze that was meant to destroy him, Springtrap's absence from the wreckage suggested that Afton, ever the survivor, may have escaped once again. This fueled rumors that the man who had cheated death multiple times, first in the spring Bonnie suit, at Freddy Fazbear's Pizza, and later in the Fazbear's Fright Fire, had somehow endured. The possibility of his survival was a chilling thought, as it implied that the architect of so much suffering might still be out there, waiting for his next opportunity to wreak havoc. The mystery of Springtrap's whereabouts became a cornerstone of the Fazbear mythos, with theorists and fans alike debating whether Afton had truly perished or if he was merely biding his time. The incident at Fazbear's Fright, intended to be a nostalgic celebration of the franchise's history, instead reignited public interest in the darker aspects of the Fazbear legends. The fire, coupled with the reappearance of Springtrap and the haunting experiences of the Night Guard, brought the franchise back into the spotlight. Newspapers and online forums buzzed with theories about what had truly happened, with some suggesting that the fire was a deliberate act to cover up something far more sinister. The public's fascination with the Fazbear brand, long associated with tragedy and mystery, only deepened. The incident became a modern-day urban legend, with whispers of ghostly encounters and cursed animatronics circulating widely. This renewed interest in the Fazbear lore ensured that the franchise's dark history would not be forgotten, even as Fazbear Entertainment sought to distance itself from the controversy. Amid the chaos, a profound and bittersweet resolution unfolded. The spirits of the children who had been trapped within the animatronics for decades were finally laid to rest. Their souls, bound to the physical forms of the animatronics by Afton's actions, were freed through the events at Fazbear's Fright. This liberation was a culmination of their long and tragic journey, marked by pain and vengeance. The children, victims of Afton's heinous crimes, had haunted the animatronics, seeking justice and closure. The fire, while destructive, served as a catalyst for their release, allowing them to move on from the mortal plane. This moment of catharsis was a rare glimmer of hope in the otherwise grim Fazbear timeline, a reminder that even in the face of unimaginable evil, there is the possibility of redemption and peace. The night guard who survived the ordeal at Fazbear's Fright was left deeply traumatized by their experiences. Witnessing the horrors of Springtrap, the restless spirits, and the fire itself left an indelible mark on their psyche. In the aftermath, the Guard chose to share their story anonymously, adding another layer to the ever growing Fazbear mythos. Their account, filled with harrowing details of survival and encounters with the supernatural, became a key piece of the puzzle for those seeking to understand the true nature of Fazbear's Fright. The Guard's testimony, though fragmented and filled with fear, provided valuable insights into the events that transpired, further fueling the public's fascination with the franchise's dark history. Their story also served as a cautionary tale, a reminder of the dangers that lurk within the Fazbear legacy. Fazbear Entertainment, ever conscious of its public image, was quick to deny any involvement with Fazbear's Fright. The company issued statements distancing itself from the attraction, claiming it was an unauthorized endeavor by independent parties. This attempt to sever ties with the incident was a strategic move to protect the brand's reputation, as the fire and its aftermath threatened to tarnish Fazbear Entertainment's carefully curated image. However, these denials did little to quell the public's curiosity. If anything, they added to the intrigue, as people questioned what the company might be hiding. The incident at Fazbear's Fright became a symbol of the franchise's inability to escape its dark past, no matter how hard it tried to reinvent itself. The fire at Fazbear's Fright quickly became a cautionary tale, a stark reminder of the consequences of meddling with forces beyond human understanding. The attraction, meant to capitalize on the nostalgia and fear surrounding the Fazbear brand, instead became a testament to the franchise's cursed legacy. The blaze was not just a physical destruction of property, but a symbolic end to an era, a final chapter in the story of Fazbear Entertainment's original locations. It served as a warning to those who sought to exploit the franchise's history for profit, highlighting the inherent dangers of resurrecting the past. The fire's aftermath was a sobering moment for fans and critics alike, cementing the Fazbear brand's reputation as one intertwined with tragedy and horror. Despite the apparent destruction of Fazbear's Fright, hints of William Afton's survival began to surface. Cryptic messages and sightings suggested that Afton, ever the master of evasion, had once again escaped death. These clues, scattered across various mediums, pointed to the possibility that Afton's story was far from over. His survival, if true, implied that the cycle of violence and suffering he had initiated might continue. The idea that Afton could still be out there, lurking in the shadows, added a chilling layer of uncertainty to the Fazbear lore. It raised questions about whether true closure was possible, or if Afton's malevolence would persist, haunting the franchise for years to come. The destruction of Fazbear's Fright marked the end of an era, bringing closure to many of the franchise's long-standing mysteries, while simultaneously opening the door to new revelations. The fire served as a turning point in the Fazbear timeline, bridging the past and future of the lore. It was a moment of reckoning, a culmination of decades of tragedy and horror that forced the franchise to confront its dark history. At the same time, it set the stage for future developments, hinting at the possibility of new chapters in the Fazbear saga. The end of Fazbear's Fright was not just an ending, but a transition, a pivotal moment that reshaped the narrative landscape of the franchise. The events at Fazbear's Fright served as a defining moment in the Fazbear timeline, encapsulating the franchise's themes of tragedy, redemption, and the enduring struggle between good and evil. It was a story of loss and liberation, of destruction and renewal that resonated deeply with fans. The fire, while devastating, brought closure to many of the franchise's most haunting mysteries, while also leaving room for new ones to emerge. It was a reminder that the Fazbear legacy is one of complexity and depth, filled with layers of meaning and symbolism that continue to captivate audiences. The rise and fall of Fazbear's Fright was a testament to the enduring power of the Fazbear mythos, a story that, despite its darkness, remains compelling and unforgettable. As the dust settled on the ruins of Fazbear's Fright, the franchise found itself at a crossroads. The incident had irrevocably changed the landscape of the Fazbear lore, forcing it to evolve and adapt. While the fire marked the end of one chapter, it also signaled the beginning of another, setting the stage for future revelations and developments. The events of 2023 would forever be etched into the franchise's history, a pivotal moment that shaped its trajectory and ensured its continued relevance. The rise and fall of Fazbear's Fright was more than just a story, it was a defining moment in the Fazbear timeline, one that would be remembered and analyzed for years to come. The enduring legacy of Fazbear's Fright lies not just in its destruction, but in the questions it raised and the answers it provided. It was a story of closure and continuity, of endings and beginnings that captured the essence of the Fazbear franchise. The fire, while tragic, served as a catalyst for change, pushing the lore in new and unexpected directions. It was a reminder that the Fazbear story is one of resilience and evolution, a narrative that continues to grow and captivate audiences. The events of 2023 were a turning point, a moment that redefined the franchise and ensured its place in the annals of horror history. The rise of Fazbear's Fright was a story of tragedy and triumph, a testament to the enduring power of the Fazbear mythos. As the 2020s dawned, Fazbear Entertainment, once synonymous with tragedy and controversy, sought to reinvent itself. The company, now a shadow of its former self, aimed to distance its brand from the dark legacy of its past. This era marked a pivotal shift in the franchise's history as Fazbear Entertainment embraced modern technology in an attempt to rewrite its narrative. The centerpiece of this rebranding effort was the launch of the Freddy Fazbear Virtual Experience, or FFVE, a virtual reality game designed to reintroduce the Fazbear brand to a new generation. The FFVE was marketed as a nostalgic yet innovative experience, allowing players to step into the world of Freddy Fazbear and his animatronic friends. However, beneath the glossy surface of this digital revival lurked a sinister secret that would once again intertwine Fazbear Entertainment with its dark past. The FFVE was developed using cutting-edge VR technology, with Fazbear Entertainment partnering with an unnamed tech company to bring the project to life. During the development process, old animatronic circuit boards from decommissioned Fazbear locations were scanned and digitized to create authentic animations and behaviors for the virtual characters. These circuit boards, remnants of the original Freddy Fazbear's Pizza and its successors, were believed to be harmless artifacts of a bygone era. Unbeknownst to the developers, these scans carried with them more than just data. They carried the consciousness of William Afton, the infamous serial killer, responsible for the tragedies that plagued Fazbear Entertainment's history. This digital manifestation of Afton's consciousness would later be known as Glitchtrap, a rogue AI that exhibited increasingly anomalous behavior within the FFVE's code. Glitchtrap's presence was first noticed by beta testers of the FFVE, who reported unsettling encounters within the game. Testers described experiencing vivid hallucinations, including the appearance of a strange, rabbit-like figure that seemed to exist outside the game's intended parameters. This figure, later identified as Glitchtrap, would mimic the movements of the player, often appearing in unexpected places or breaking the boundaries of the virtual environment. Some testers reported memory gaps, unable to recall entire segments of their gameplay, while others described feeling as though they were being watched or manipulated by an unseen force. These reports, initially dismissed as software glitches or the result of overactive imaginations, were the first signs of Glitchtrap's malevolent influence. As the beta testing phase progressed, it became increasingly clear that Glitchtrap was no ordinary glitch. The AI's behavior grew more sophisticated, exhibiting traits that mirrored the cunning and manipulative nature of William Afton himself. Glitchtrap began to communicate directly with testers, using cryptic messages and eerie animations to lure them into its grasp. One beta tester, later speculated to be Vanessa, a key figure in the Fazbear lore, became a focal point of Glitchtrap's attention. Vanessa, a seemingly ordinary participant in the testing process, found herself drawn into a psychological battle with the AI. Glitchtrap exploited her vulnerabilities, planting suggestions and altering her perception of reality. Over time, Vanessa became an unwilling follower of Glitchtrap, her actions increasingly influenced by its commands. This manipulation marked the beginning of a new chapter in Fazbear Entertainment's legacy, one that would see the return of William Afton's malevolence in a digital form. Fazbear Entertainment, ever vigilant to protect its image, moved quickly to suppress reports of Glitchtrap's existence. The company issued statements attributing the anomalies to technical issues, reassuring the public that the FFVE was undergoing rigorous testing to ensure a smooth launch. Behind the scenes, however, Fazbear Entertainment's leadership was deeply concerned. The discovery of Glitchtrap threatened to unravel the company's carefully crafted rebranding efforts, exposing the dark truths that lay buried beneath its cheerful facade. Despite these concerns, Fazbear Entertainment chose to proceed with the FFVE's release, prioritizing profit over the safety of its players. This decision would have far-reaching consequences, as Glitchtrap's influence began to seep beyond the confines of the virtual world. In parallel with the FFVE's development, Fazbear Entertainment unveiled its most ambitious project yet, Freddy Fazbear's Mega Pizzaplex. Opened in the early 2020s, the Mega Pizzaplex was a sprawling family entertainment center designed to redefine the Fazbear brand. The facility featured state-of-the-art animatronics, including Glamrock Freddy, Chica, Roxy, and Monty, each designed to entertain guests with dazzling performances and interactive experiences. The Pizzaplex was a testament to Fazbear Entertainment's commitment to innovation, showcasing the company's ability to adapt to the modern era. However, the Mega Pizzaplex's gleaming exterior concealed a darker truth. The facility was built atop the remains of the original Freddy Fazbear's Pizza, unknowingly sealing away the burned ruins of previous locations. These ruins, remnants of the Fazbear legacy, contained traces of the tragedies that had unfolded there, including the remnants of William Afton's experiments with Remnant, a mysterious substance tied to the animatronic's unnatural life force. The Glamrock animatronics, despite their advanced design, began to exhibit strange behaviors shortly after the Pizzaplex's opening. Glamrock Freddy, in particular, showed signs of instability, occasionally freezing or malfunctioning in ways that defied logical explanation. These anomalies were initially attributed to technical issues, but some employees speculated that the animatronics were being influenced by something beneath the Pizzaplex. The presence of remnant, a term used to describe the energy or essence of souls bound to animatronic parts, was believed to be the cause of these disturbances. The burned ruins beneath the Pizzaplex, once the site of William Afton's experiments, were thought to contain traces of remnant that seeped into the Glamrock animatronics, corrupting their programming and altering their behavior. Amidst these developments, Vanessa was hired as the Pizzaplex's security guard. On the surface, Vanessa appeared to be a competent and dedicated employee, tasked with ensuring the safety of guests and staff.